For centuries, humanity has looked to the past, seeking answers to questions that seem beyond our grasp. Yet, the deeper we dig, the more we uncover. Mysterious relics, strange structures, and perplexing artifacts that defy explanation. How did ancient civilizations, with technology far less advanced than ours, create wonders that still baffle modern minds? From hidden tombs to unexplained monuments, these are the enigmas that refuse to be solved. Join us as we journey through 3 hours of the most bizarre and captivating archaeological mysteries that continue to challenge everything we thought we knew about history. Are you ready to face the unknown? Beneath the quiet hills of Majorca, amidst the timeless landscapes of the Mediterranean, lies one of the most enigmatic remnants of ancient civilization, Fornés. This Talayotic settlement, dating back to the late Bronze Age, offers a glimpse into a forgotten world, one that continues to intrigue historians, archaeologists, and even those who dare to speculate about the secrets of the past. The settlement is marked by its distinctive stone structures, a testament to the ingenuity of the Talayotic people. These people, who inhabited the Balearic Islands around 1000 BC, left behind a unique architectural legacy, the most famous of which are the tallas, monolithic, T-shaped stone structures. Towering over the landscape, these massive stones are not just impressive feats of engineering. They stand as silent sentinels, guarding the mystery of their true purpose. What were these structures used for? Most scholars agree that the tallas had some kind of ritual significance, perhaps linked to the worship of a god or a celestial alignment. Yet, even with all our knowledge of the ancient world, there are few definitive answers. Some suggest that the tallas might have been a form of astronomical observatory, used to mark the passage of the seasons or track celestial bodies. Others believe they played a central role in religious ceremonies, possibly linked to fertility rites or ancestor worship. But these are merely theories. Intriguing, yes, but theories nonetheless. As you walk through the site, the question arises: how did a society with no written language develop such a complex and sophisticated system of stone architecture? Did they possess knowledge that has been lost to time? While we have evidence of their tools, pottery, and agricultural practices, the true nature of their society remains shrouded in mystery. What's even more puzzling is the way in which the Talayotic people disappeared. By around 123 BC, they had vanished, leaving only their stone monuments behind. Some speculate that external pressures, such as invasions or the arrival of new cultures, led to their downfall. Others point to internal factors, perhaps a shift in climate or a societal collapse. Yet, with no written records to explain their disappearance, the question of what happened to them lingers, unanswered. Among the ruins, you'll find other intriguing structures: circular dwellings, ancient tombs, and defensive walls that speak to a people who were not only builders, but also warriors. Some of the tombs appear to have been used for ceremonial burials, with elaborate offerings placed inside, suggesting that death and the afterlife held significant meaning for the Talayotic people. Could these tombs also serve as a key to understanding their culture? Were the dead revered as intermediaries between the living and the gods, as in so many ancient societies? But there is something more in the air here, a sense of the unknown, a quiet hum of untold stories. It's in the way the stones seem to hold memories of a time long past, and in the way the land itself has preserved the essence of a civilization that has left no trace in the historical record. Some have even proposed that Fornés, like other ancient sites across the world, might have been part of a larger pan-Mediterranean network of connected cultures, one whose knowledge was shared across distant lands, and whose influence extended far beyond what we currently understand. Could it be that Fornés is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, and that the Talayotic people were not as isolated as we think? Were they part of a grander civilization that spanned continents, A civilization that simply faded from the historical narrative? Or is there another explanation, one that we have yet to uncover, one that challenges everything we think we know about the ancient world? As you stand among the towering stones of Sun Fornés, the unanswered questions are impossible to ignore. Who were the Talayotic people? What did they know, and what did they leave behind? And perhaps most importantly, what might still be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? For now, these questions remain unanswered, leaving us with only the mysteries of Sun Fornés and the tantalizing possibility that the past still has much to reveal. From the stone monuments of Sun Fornés, we now turn our attention to another enigmatic corner of the ancient world, the hilltop settlements of El Argar. Nestled in the arid, sun-drenched landscapes of southeastern Spain, these ancient settlements stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that flourished long before the rise of Rome. They are as much a mystery as they are a testament to the ingenuity of the people who built them. Perched high on the hills, the settlements of El Argar were strategically located to offer a panoramic view of the surrounding valley, a landscape that, even now, whispers of the civilization's complexity and its quiet, determined strength. This was a society that, at its peak around 2000 BC to 1500 BC, was both advanced and enigmatic. The people of El Argar constructed fortified hilltop towns with a level of sophistication that suggests they were not merely surviving, but thriving in a hostile environment. The settlements were marked by well-planned streets, communal spaces, and houses made of durable stone, a stark contrast to the more temporary shelters seen in other contemporary societies. These structures were not only designed for defense, but also for social organization, a sign of a people who valued both safety and order. In fact, the walls and fortifications suggest that the people of El Argar were no strangers to conflict, as if they lived in a world where tensions were ever present and the threat of violence loomed large. Yet, despite their apparent resilience, the people of El Argar left behind no written records. Their culture, once thought to be lost to time, now stands as one of the great archaeological mysteries of the ancient Mediterranean. What happened to them? Why did they vanish? And, most importantly, what do their settlements reveal about their society, beliefs, and the forces that shaped their existence? The mystery begins with the very nature of their settlements. The precision with which the El Argar people built their hilltop fortresses suggests a highly organized society, one capable of remarkable architectural and engineering feats. But the purpose of these settlements goes beyond mere defense. Some theorists suggest that these hilltop communities were designed as centers of ritual or political power, places where the elites could gather to make decisions or hold religious ceremonies, far removed from the chaos of everyday life below. Could these settlements have been spiritual hubs, dedicated to deities whose names have long been forgotten? As we dig deeper into the remains of the settlements, we find evidence of a highly developed culture. Artifacts such as finely crafted pottery, tools, and intricate jewelry suggest a people with both artistic talent and practical ingenuity. But what stands out most is the discovery of burial practices, an area that has sparked much speculation. The people of El Argar did not simply bury their dead in traditional graves. Instead, they practiced a form of collective burial, often placing multiple individuals in the same tomb. This has led some researchers to hypothesize that the El Argar people may have had complex beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife, perhaps even a form of ancestor worship or reverence for the deceased. Further examination of the remains reveals a startling fact. Many of the graves contain artifacts that indicate the deceased were of high status. This suggests a deeply hierarchical society, with clear distinctions between the elites and common people. But what is truly puzzling is the presence of both men and women among the elite graves. Unlike many ancient societies where power was predominantly held by men, The evidence at El Argar suggests that women played an important role in the leadership and spiritual life of the society. Were they rulers, priestesses, or something else entirely? The lack of written records means that these roles remain speculative, and yet the evidence is undeniable. The material culture of El Argar further complicates our understanding of their society. The pottery they left behind is intricate and functional, with designs that suggest both trade and craftsmanship. The El Argar people had contact with neighboring cultures, and their pottery and metalwork reflect influences from other Mediterranean societies. But what is especially intriguing is the sudden shift in their art and technology around 1700 BC, when the civilization began to show signs of decline. The finely made pottery gives way to simpler forms, and the once sophisticated metalworking techniques appear to have faltered. What caused this abrupt shift? Was it the result of external invasion, internal conflict, or perhaps something more insidious, an ecological disaster, a collapse of trade routes, or a breakdown in social order? But perhaps the most perplexing aspect of El Argar is the ultimate fate of its people. Around 1500 BC, the hilltop settlements were abandoned, and the civilization seemed to vanish as mysteriously as it had appeared. Some scholars suggest that the El Argar civilization was absorbed into neighboring cultures, such as the Iberians or the Phoenicians, but the evidence for this is sparse. Others propose that the collapse of El Argar may have been the result of climatic change, drought, famine, or other environmental stresses that made it impossible for the society to survive. Still, the most tantalizing theory is that the people of El Argar were not conquered or assimilated, but rather chose to abandon their settlements for reasons that remain unknown. The remains of El Argar raise more questions than they answer. Could there have been a spiritual or political upheaval that led to the abandonment of their once thriving hilltop settlements? Were the people of El Argar simply victims of forces beyond their control, or did they have a hand in their own disappearance? And what of the burial practices and the elite graves? Did these reflect a society on the brink of transformation, or a culture that held deep secrets, buried along with their dead? The story of El Argar is one of intrigue, complexity, and unresolved questions. It is a civilization that offers us glimpses of its strength and sophistication, but keeps much of its true nature hidden in the shadows. As we continue to explore these ancient hilltop settlements, one cannot help but wonder, what other secrets might still lie buried beneath the stones of El Argar, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? And how much of this lost world remains hidden just beyond our reach? As we leave behind the mysterious hilltop settlements of El Argar, we now turn our focus to a site that lies deep within the heart of the ancient Near East, a place whose ruins continue to captivate both scholars and explorers alike: the Ain Dara Temple. Hidden in the hills of modern-day Syria, this ancient sanctuary has stood for thousands of years, quietly holding the secrets of a civilization long lost to history. Yet, despite the many theories surrounding its origin and purpose, the true significance of Ain Dara remains shrouded in mystery. The temple's ruins, first uncovered in 1955, are both haunting and awe-inspiring. As you approach the site, the towering remains of stone walls rise from the earth, their surfaces weathered and eroded by time. The layout of the temple, with its impressive scale and careful symmetry, immediately suggests that this was a place of great importance, a religious center, perhaps, or a palace of some kind. The walls are adorned with intricate carvings of animals and gods, their meanings lost to time but offering glimpses into the beliefs of the people who once worshipped here. What is most striking, however, are the giant footprints embedded in the stone floors of the temple's inner sanctum. These footprints, some of which are nearly 5 feet long, have fascinated archaeologists and led to numerous questions about their origin. The most widely accepted explanation is that these marks represent the footsteps of a divine figure, perhaps a god or a king whose presence was believed to bless the temple. But why, one might wonder, would such an elaborate, symbolic gesture be left behind? And what did it signify to the people who placed it there? The answer, it seems, is elusive. Some suggest that the footprints may have been meant to represent the footprints of the god Hadad, the storm god widely worshipped in the ancient Near East. Hadad was often depicted with large, powerful feet, and the temple itself might have been dedicated to his worship. If this is true, then Ain Dara may have been a site of significant spiritual and political importance, perhaps the very heart of a kingdom or city-state that once ruled the region. But there are other, more speculative theories, ones that venture into the realm of the unknown. Could it be that the footprints are not merely symbolic, but that they were somehow tied to a real physical event? A moment in time when a god or leader physically walked into the temple, leaving his mark on the stone for eternity? Some researchers have even proposed that these footprints could be a form of ritualistic imprint, a type of spiritual marker meant to anchor the presence of a divine entity in the temple's very structure. If this is true, it would suggest that the ancient inhabitants of Ain Dara believed in a more immediate, tangible connection to their gods, one that transcended abstract worship and entered the realm of the physical world. Beyond the footprints, the temple's architecture itself adds to the mystery. Unlike many other ancient temples, Ain Dara does not follow the typical blueprint seen in the religious structures of nearby civilizations, such as those of the Phoenicians or the ancient Egyptians. Its layout is distinctly unique, with features that defy standard classification. The temple is arranged in a way that suggests a careful, deliberate design, but one that does not quite match any known architectural tradition. Was this an attempt by the builders to create a space that was not only sacred, but also powerful, a place where the divine could manifest in a very real, physical form? The answer remains unclear, but the possibility raises even more questions about the purpose and significance of the site. What further complicates the story of Ain Dara is the lack of concrete historical records that can tell us who built the temple and when. Based on architectural style and the presence of specific artifacts, some experts believe that the temple dates back to the 9th century BC, a time when various Semitic kingdoms ruled the ancient Near East. It is often associated with the ancient kingdom of Bitagusi, a small but influential state that controlled much of the northern regions of modern-day Syria. Yet, even this attribution is not without dispute. Other scholars have suggested that the temple may belong to a completely different culture, or that it represents a much earlier phase of construction, possibly predating the known historical record. But what if the true origin of Ain Dara lies even further in the past, before the time of the kingdoms and empires that we recognize? Could this temple have been built by a civilization whose knowledge and culture were lost to the sands of time, leaving behind only these cryptic remains as evidence of their existence? There are some who speculate that Ain Dara could be connected to even older, more obscure cultures, perhaps those who lived in the region before the rise of written history. As intriguing as these possibilities are, there is another, even more unsettling theory about the temple. Some researchers have pointed out the strange, almost otherworldly quality of Ain Dara's design, leading to speculation that the site might have been connected to extraterrestrial influences. While this idea is far from mainstream, it speaks to the broader sense of mystery that surrounds the temple. Could the builders of Ain Dara have had knowledge or access to technologies far beyond what we would expect of their time? Were they merely masters of their craft, or were they drawing from a knowledge that was somehow imparted to them, either through trade, cultural exchange, or something even more extraordinary? The mysterious footprints, the temple's unusual architecture, and the unanswered questions about its origins all point to a place that, even today, resists full understanding. It stands as a powerful reminder that the past is not always as simple as it may seem. For all of our technological advancements, we are still left with profound gaps in our understanding of the ancient world. And Ain Dara is but one example of how these gaps continue to grow wider the more we learn. What was the true purpose of the Ain Dara Temple? Was it merely a place of worship, a political center, or something more? What secrets might still lie buried beneath the ruins, waiting to be uncovered? And could the answers to these questions reveal something more, something that challenges the very way we think about ancient history? As we continue to explore the ancient mysteries that have shaped our world, Ain Dara remains a testament to the complexity of the past and the enduring mysteries that still elude us. Perhaps in time, more will be revealed. But for now, the temple stands, silent and enigmatic, a place where the past continues to whisper its secrets to those who are willing to listen. As we leave behind the mysterious ruins of Ain Dara, we now venture to another lesser-known yet equally captivating site, a place that holds its own enigmatic allure, El Paraíso. Located in the rugged mountains of Peru, far removed from the more famous archaeological sites of the Inca Empire, the pyramids of El Paraíso are a testament to a civilization that has all but faded from the historical record. Yet, in their silent grandeur, they raise questions that are as compelling as they are elusive. The El Paraíso complex, which dates back to around 2000 BC, is one of the oldest and most significant pre-Inca archaeological sites in the Andean region. Unlike the towering structures of the later Incan Empire, these pyramids are less grand in their scale, yet they are striking in their simplicity and placement. Constructed of stone and adobe, the pyramids rise gently from the valley floor, their angular faces softened by centuries of weathering. But despite their humble appearance, the site holds an air of quiet mystery, one that beckons those who dare to explore it. The site's name, El Paraíso, meaning the paradise, seems almost prophetic, as if the very land itself were waiting for discovery. The pyramids are arranged in a series of concentric terraces, each one rising higher as it leads toward the central structure. This design, though simple, suggests a level of planning and purpose that would have required advanced knowledge of architecture and astronomy. The walls of the pyramids are adorned with intricate carvings, depicting animals and symbols whose meanings have yet to be fully deciphered. These images hint at a society deeply connected to nature, but the full extent of their symbolism remains unknown. What is most remarkable about El Paraíso, however, is its seemingly unassuming position in the grand narrative of ancient civilizations. While other Andean cultures, such as the Nazca and the Inca, are well documented and their achievements widely known, the people who built El Paraíso remain a mystery. The civilization that constructed these pyramids, often referred to as the early Andean culture, left no written records to explain their history or beliefs. What little we know about them is derived from the remnants of their architecture, their pottery, and the few surviving artifacts found at the site. But there is one question that remains particularly troubling. Why did this early Andean culture, which demonstrated such architectural prowess, leave behind no lasting legacy? Why did their civilization seem to vanish, leaving only their pyramids as evidence of their once flourishing society? Was their disappearance the result of war, environmental changes, or simply the passage of time? And, perhaps most perplexing of all, why did the people of El Paraíso choose to build such monumental structures in the first place? The pyramids themselves offer some clues, though they remain far from definitive. The layout of the site suggests that it was a place of great importance, perhaps a center of religious or political power. Some researchers believe that the pyramids of El Paraíso were used for ceremonial purposes, possibly as temples or platforms for public rituals. The presence of offerings, such as carved stone objects and pottery, suggests that the site may have been a hub for spiritual activity. But was it merely a religious site? Or could it have also served as a symbol of political power, a way for the ruling elite to demonstrate their authority over the surrounding lands? One of the most curious features of the El Paraíso pyramids is their alignment with certain celestial bodies. Some researchers have suggested that the pyramids were constructed with an awareness of astronomy, perhaps even serving as a tool for tracking the movements of the sun and the stars. The terraces of the pyramids are thought to be aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, hinting at a deep connection between the builders and the rhythms of the natural world. But what knowledge did these ancient people possess about the cosmos? How did they understand the cycles of the heavens? And how did this knowledge influence their architecture and daily life? The mystery of El Paraíso deepens when we consider its location. While many ancient civilizations built their monumental structures near rivers or fertile plains, El Paraíso is situated in a relatively remote and arid region of Peru. Why would a civilization choose to build such grand structures in a place where resources were scarce? Was it an effort to mark a sacred landscape, to carve their presence into a harsh environment as a way of asserting control over the land? Or did the location hold some deeper spiritual significance, a connection to the mountains and the sky, perhaps tied to the belief in the sacredness of the natural world? The absence of written records only adds to the sense of intrigue surrounding the site. Unlike other Andean cultures, such as the Incas, the people of El Paraíso left behind no inscriptions or codices to tell us their story. The artifacts found at the site provide tantalizing glimpses into their daily lives, but they offer few concrete answers to the larger questions. Were the people of El Paraíso part of a larger cultural network, interacting with distant civilizations, or were they a completely isolated society? Did their influence extend beyond the immediate region, or were they confined to the valley where their pyramids stand? Theories abound regarding the ultimate fate of the civilization that built El Paraíso. Some believe that the culture was absorbed into other, more powerful societies as the centuries progressed, while others suggest that a cataclysmic event, such as a massive drought or an invasion, may have led to its collapse. Still, others propose that the builders of El Paraíso were simply part of a longer cycle of rise and fall, their achievements overshadowed by later civilizations that would come to dominate the region. Whatever the truth may be, the pyramids of El Paraíso stand as silent sentinels to a lost culture, their mysteries waiting to be unraveled. They offer us a glimpse into the lives of a people who understood the importance of architecture, astronomy, and the divine, yet remain almost entirely unknown to history. As we continue our exploration of ancient archaeological mysteries, one cannot help but wonder, what secrets still lie hidden beneath the sands and stones of El Paraíso? And what, if anything, might we still have to learn from this long-forgotten civilization? As we leave behind the ancient pyramids of El Paraíso, we now travel across the waters to the distant hills of Wales, to a place where the past seems to rise up from the earth itself. Bryn Celli Ddu. This ancient tomb, hidden beneath the rolling green landscape, offers a glimpse into a time long before written history, when the people of the British Isles built structures that aligned not only with the natural world, but perhaps with something far greater, an understanding of the cosmos, the divine, and the cycles of life and death. Bryn Celli Ddu, which translates to the mound in the dark grove, is a prehistoric burial chamber that dates back to around 3000 BC during the Neolithic period. It is located on the island of Anglesey in the northwest of Wales and remains one of the most significant and mysterious megalithic sites in the British Isles. The monument itself is deceptively simple in appearance, a grassy mound that rises from the earth like a gentle hill, surrounded by a circle of standing stones. To the casual observer, it may appear as just another ancient ruin, but a closer look reveals a carefully crafted, complex structure buried beneath the earth. The tomb is a passage grave, constructed with massive stone slabs, some of which were brought from distant quarries. Its entrance is framed by a pair of large stones, which seem to reach upward toward the sky, as though pointing to something unseen. As you step into the tomb, the atmosphere changes. The air feels cooler, heavier, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sun outside. The passage, which is aligned with the rising sun during the summer solstice, leads into a small chamber where the remains of the deceased were once laid to rest. The stonework is intricate, with each slab carefully placed to create an almost seamless enclosure. It's a space that seems to hold secrets, both literal and metaphorical. But it is the alignment of Bryn Celli Ddu that truly sets it apart from other Neolithic burial sites. At dawn on the summer solstice, the first rays of the sun pierce through the entrance of the tomb, illuminating the burial chamber with a soft, ethereal light. This precise alignment suggests that the builders of Bryn Celli Ddu had a deep understanding of the movement of the sun and its significance in the cycles of life and death. Could this be a reflection of an ancient belief in the power of the sun as a life-giving force, or even as a symbol of rebirth? Was the tomb intended to connect the dead with the divine, or perhaps to guide the soul on its journey to the afterlife? The use of light and shadow at Bryn Celli Ddu raises even more questions when we consider the other elements of the site. One of the most intriguing aspects of the tomb is the presence of a large central stone within the chamber, an upright monolith known as the orthostat. Some researchers believe that this stone was once inscribed with markings, though little remains of these markings today. Could these symbols have had a spiritual or astronomical significance? Were they part of a larger system of belief that tied the dead to the heavens, linking the world of the living to the celestial realms above? Even more puzzling is the discovery of human remains and artifacts found within the tomb. Excavations have revealed that Bryn Celli Ddu was used not just as a burial site, but also as a place of ritual activity. The bones of humans and animals have been found in the chamber, along with pottery, jewelry, and other grave goods. What does this suggest about the society that built the tomb? Did they believe in a form of ancestor worship, or perhaps in a form of reincarnation, where the dead continued to play an active role in the world of the living? The presence of offerings and the ritualistic nature of the tomb point to a belief system that was far more complex than simple burial practices. But the questions don't stop there. As with many ancient sites, Bryn Celli Ddu is surrounded by legends and theories that stretch the limits of historical evidence. Some suggest that the tomb was not only a place of burial, but a site of celestial observation, a kind of prehistoric observatory where the alignment of the sun, the stars, and the earth held great meaning. There is even speculation that the tomb was part of a much larger, interconnected network of sacred sites across the British Isles, where ancient peoples gathered to honor the cycles of the earth and sky. Could Bryn Celli Ddu have been part of a larger, pan-European tradition of sacred geometry and astronomical observation? Was it part of a cultural or spiritual network that spanned much of the ancient world? Others have proposed even more speculative ideas. Some have suggested that the tomb could have served as a portal to another world, a liminal space where the boundaries between life and death, the mortal and the divine, were blurred. The name of the site itself, the mound in the dark grove, evokes a sense of mystery and otherworldliness, as though the tomb is a place where the ordinary world gives way to something beyond our comprehension. Could it be that the people who built Bryn Celli Ddu believed that death was not an end, but a transformation, a journey to another realm where the spirits of the dead could interact with the living? Was this tomb, in some way, a bridge between two worlds? The stone circles that surround Bryn Celli Ddu further deepen the mystery. While not as famous as other megalithic sites, such as Stonehenge, the circle of stones at Bryn Celli Ddu suggests a broader cultural context, one in which the people of the time carefully shaped the landscape to reflect their spiritual beliefs. Were these stones markers for ritual gatherings? Or did they serve a more astronomical purpose, perhaps tracking the movements of the sun, moon, and stars over the course of the year? As with so many ancient sites, the true purpose and meaning of Bryn Celli Ddu remain tantalizingly out of reach. The tomb stands as a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of its builders, yet it continues to withhold its secrets. Was it a place of worship, a site of celestial observation, or something else entirely? The absence of written records means that we are left to speculate, piecing together fragments of evidence in an attempt to understand a long-forgotten belief system. Standing at the entrance of Bryn Celli Ddu, it's impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing in. This ancient tomb, with its precise alignment, mysterious carvings, and ritual significance, serves as a reminder of the complexity and depth of human belief. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the past, we are left to wonder, what knowledge lies buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? And what secrets might still remain hidden in the darkness of this ancient grove? As we leave behind the misty hills of Bryn Celli Ddu, we now journey to the sun-baked plains of southern Spain, where another ancient enigma awaits: Torre-La Janera. Located near the town of Alcaudete in the province of Jaén, this megalithic site is a quiet, yet profoundly puzzling testament to the early cultures that once inhabited the Iberian Peninsula. Its purpose and meaning remain shrouded in mystery, offering more questions than answers as we try to piece together the story of this ancient landscape. Torre-La Janera is not a singular monument, but rather a complex network of standing stones, burial chambers, and enigmatic structures that seem to have been carefully arranged to follow a specific, deliberate design. The site is named after two of its most prominent features: the Torre, a large tower-like structure, and La Janera, a term used to describe the area of megalithic stones scattered across the region. As you approach the site, the towering stones rise from the earth, arranged in a circular pattern around the central burial chamber. The stones themselves are made of the same type of gray sandstone found throughout the region, and many of them are intricately carved, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. The most striking aspect of Torre-La Janera is the sheer scale of the site. The tower-like structure, standing nearly 6 meters tall, is surrounded by a series of large, upright stones arranged in a deliberate formation. These stones form a kind of sacred circle, suggesting that the people who built Torre-La Janera placed great importance on the symbolism of space and alignment. The entire site seems to be oriented toward specific celestial events, such as the solstices and equinoxes, indicating that it was likely a place of astronomical observation. But why, one might wonder, would a culture so far removed from the later civilizations of the Mediterranean build such a structure, seemingly designed to connect them to the stars? Archaeologists have long speculated that Torre-La Janera was not merely a burial site, but a place of ritual and astronomical significance. The central chamber, which has been partially excavated, contains the remains of several individuals, as well as a variety of grave goods, including pottery and tools. This suggests that the site was used for more than just simple burial practices. It was a place of reverence, perhaps a sacred space where the dead were honored and their spirits believed to be in communication with the heavens. The stones themselves may have been seen as representations of the ancestors, with their upright positions symbolizing the connection between the earth and the sky. The alignment of the stones adds to the mystery. Some researchers have proposed that the site was a form of early observatory, used to track the movement of the sun and stars. The precise arrangement of the stones suggests a knowledge of celestial cycles that would have been necessary for agricultural purposes or for the timing of religious festivals. If this is true, it would suggest that the builders of Torre-La Janera possessed an advanced understanding of astronomy, an understanding that, at the time, would have been extraordinary. But the question remains, How did a society with no written language or known scientific tools come to possess such knowledge? Was it passed down through oral traditions, or was there some other source of wisdom that we have yet to uncover? Further excavation at La Torre-La Janera has uncovered numerous artifacts, including tools and pottery fragments that point to a culture skilled in both agriculture and craftsmanship. But despite these discoveries, much of the site's function remains speculative. Some believe that the site may have been a center of political power, a place where rulers or priests gathered to perform rituals that solidified their authority. Others suggest that it could have been a ceremonial site dedicated to fertility or ancestor worship, practices commonly found in ancient cultures. But could La Torre-La Janera have served a dual purpose, both as a sacred site and as a center of political influence? The age of the site is another subject of ongoing debate. While some estimates place the construction of La Torre-La Janera as early as 3000 BC, others suggest that it could be as recent as 1500 BC, based on the style of pottery and tools found at the site. This discrepancy raises more questions about the cultural context in which La Torre-La Janera was built. Was it part of a larger network of megalithic sites across the Iberian Peninsula, or was it an isolated creation by a unique group of people? The lack of written records from the time makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions, and many of the answers may remain hidden in the soil, waiting to be uncovered by future excavations. One of the most intriguing aspects of La Torre-La Janera is the possibility that it was connected to a much larger system of megalithic structures that spanned across Europe. Similar stone circles, burial mounds, and astronomical sites have been found from the British Isles to the Mediterranean, suggesting that the people of the ancient world shared a common understanding of the cosmos and the role of the heavens in their lives. Could La Torre-La Janera have been part of this broader cultural network? Was there a deeper, pan-European spiritual tradition that tied these far-flung civilizations together? One that transcended borders and left behind monuments like the ones we find at La Torre-La Janera? Yet, as with so many ancient sites, there are those who speculate about more unconventional explanations for La Torre-La Janera. Some theorists have even suggested that the stones could have been used for more mystical or esoteric purposes, perhaps as a means of connecting with otherworldly forces or as a channel for supernatural energy. Though these ideas may seem far-fetched, they point to the enduring mystery of the site. How much of its true purpose remains hidden from us, lost to time and the erosion of centuries? As we stand before the towering stones of La Torre-La Janera, it's impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing down upon us. The site, with its carefully arranged stones and celestial alignments, serves as a silent reminder of the advanced knowledge and spiritual beliefs of the people who once inhabited this land. And yet, the deeper questions remain unanswered. What did they truly know about the stars, the earth, and the forces that governed both? What role did La Torre-La Janera play in their society? Was it a center of ritual, of governance, or something else entirely? Perhaps the most perplexing question of all is whether we will ever fully understand the meaning of this ancient site. As we continue to search for answers in the stones, the soil, and the artifacts, the mystery of La Torre-La Janera lingers, inviting us to look beyond the surface and wonder what might still be hidden, waiting for us to uncover. From the isolated megalithic wonders of La Torre-La Janera, we now journey deep into the heart of the Egyptian desert, to a site that is as enigmatic as it is ancient, the Temple of Ammon at Siwa. Situated near the border of Egypt and Libya, Siwa Oasis has long been a place of refuge and mystery, where the dry winds of the desert seem to carry whispers of forgotten secrets. Among the many ruins scattered across this remote landscape, the Temple of Ammon stands as a testament to a civilization that reached beyond its own borders in search of divine guidance, but also one that remains surprisingly elusive in terms of its true significance. The Temple of Ammon, dedicated to the ancient Egyptian god of the sun and oracle, is thought to have been constructed around the 6th century BC, though its origins may stretch even further back in time. It is located in the Siwa Oasis, a lush and fertile area in the western desert, where travelers, pilgrims, and conquerors have passed for millennia. As you approach the temple, its weathered stones rise like silent sentinels against the desert sky. The surrounding landscape, with its salt flats and scattered palm groves, feels timeless, as though the land itself holds the memories of those who sought the wisdom of Ammon long ago. The temple, now largely reduced to ruins, was once an important religious and cultural center for the Egyptians and their allies, and it became especially famous for its oracle. The temple's architecture is typical of Egyptian design. Massive stone blocks, stacked with precision, engraved with symbols and images of the gods. But it also holds something distinctive. Unlike the grand temples of the Nile Valley, Siwa's temple is more compact and somewhat isolated, standing apart from the more monumental structures of the ancient world. This, in itself, is curious. Why would such an important site, famous for its oracle, be situated so far from the heart of ancient Egyptian civilization? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Temple of Ammon is its association with the legendary journey of Alexander the Great. In 331 BC, after his victory at the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander sought out the oracle of Ammon to confirm his divine status. According to historical accounts, Alexander traveled through the desert for many days, guided only by the stars and his conviction that the gods themselves were calling him. Upon reaching the temple, it is said that the oracle declared him to be the son of Ammon, further cementing his belief that he was more than just a mortal man. He was destined to rule the known world as a god-king. This moment in history is one of the most celebrated in Alexander's life, but the details of his visit to Siwa and the true nature of the oracle remain shrouded in mystery. Was Alexander truly granted a divine prophecy, or did he manipulate the oracle to suit his political ambitions? Was the priest who spoke to Alexander merely a man following the whims of a powerful conqueror, or was there something deeper at play? The very existence of the oracle itself is enigmatic. What knowledge or power did the priesthood of Ammon possess? Could it have been a carefully constructed political tool, or did it truly offer insights into the future? The mystery of the oracle goes further still. Though there are written accounts of Alexander's visit, no surviving records from the time describe the actual process of divination. How did the priests of Ammon communicate with the gods? What methods did they use to interpret the will of Ammon? Were the answers given to the oracle seekers based on some kind of cosmic alignment, or were they grounded in more mundane human knowledge and manipulation? The lack of concrete records leaves these questions open to speculation, and many have tried to decode the secrets of the oracle over the years. Some believe that the Siwa oracle was a place where ancient Egyptian religious practices intersected with those of the Libyan tribes of the region. The oasis itself, with its strange mix of Egyptian and Berber influences, was an intersection of cultures and beliefs. Could the people of Siwa have drawn from older traditions, ones that predated even the Egyptians themselves, offering a kind of syncretic wisdom that blended multiple spiritual understandings? The possibility that the Siwa oracle was a fusion of ancient desert traditions and Egyptian theology raises even more questions. Could the temple have been built upon an even older site of sacred significance, one that was known only to a select few who understood its deeper, hidden meanings? In addition to the oracle's connection to Alexander the Great, there are other, more mysterious elements to the Temple of Ammon. Some scholars have suggested that the temple's purpose extended beyond mere spiritual guidance. It could have been part of an early form of celestial observation. The Siwa Oasis, located far from the Nile and surrounded by vast, empty stretches of desert, might have provided the perfect vantage point for tracking the movements of the stars. Could the priests of Ammon have been using the temple as an astronomical observatory? mapping the heavens and incorporating their knowledge of celestial events into their prophecies? What makes the site even more intriguing is the discovery of inscriptions and carvings within the temple, which suggest a variety of influences. The Egyptians, Greeks, and Libyans all contributed to the cultural landscape of Siwa, and some of the carvings are unique in their blending of these influences. There are images of Egyptian gods, but also of Libyan deities and figures that seem to merge both Egyptian and Greek iconography. Were the priests at the temple practicing a unique form of divination that drew on the knowledge of multiple cultures, or were they simply preserving ancient wisdom that spanned millennia? The temple itself, though largely in ruins today, continues to be an object of fascination for both archaeologists and mystics alike. Some believe that the temple's original purpose was not solely to serve as a site for oracles, but that it held a deeper, more universal significance. Could the temple, with its connection to the divine Ammon, have been a place where human consciousness itself was transformed? The priests, some speculate, might have possessed knowledge of altered states of consciousness, gained through rituals, or perhaps even the use of psychoactive substances. Could the oracle have been a tool to bring people into contact with a higher state of being, a divine or transcendent realm where the boundaries between mortal and immortal were dissolved? As we stand at the edge of the ruins of the Temple of Ammon, it is difficult not to be struck by the overwhelming sense of mystery that still surrounds it. What truths were spoken within these walls, and how much of that wisdom has been lost to the sands of time? Was the temple truly the place of divine prophecy that it is often portrayed as, or was it merely a tool of political control and manipulation, used by those in power to assert their influence? The ruins, with their fragmented stones and fading carvings, stand as silent witnesses to a past we can never fully understand. Yet even in their quiet decay, they call us to question. What was Siwa really, and what is still waiting to be uncovered from its depths? As we leave the shifting sands of the Egyptian desert behind and turn our gaze to another ancient enigma, we arrive at a site nestled in the rolling hills of eastern Anatolia, Turkey, a place that, like so many others, holds its secrets beneath layers of earth and time. Çavuştepe. This ancient city, once a flourishing center of civilization, is a place that defies easy explanation, where the boundaries between history and legend blur, and where each stone, each carving, seems to whisper a story that has yet to be fully understood. Located near the modern-day town of Tekmen, Çavuştepe was part of the Urartian kingdom, a powerful and mysterious civilization that thrived between the 9th and 6th centuries BC. The Urartians, often overshadowed by their more famous contemporaries, the Assyrians, left behind few written records, making their cities and ruins all the more enigmatic. Çavuştepe, with its striking stone architecture and strategic positioning on a hilltop overlooking the surrounding valley, is one of the most intriguing remnants of this ancient culture. The city is defined by its imposing fortress, constructed from massive basalt stones that seem to grow organically from the land itself. The walls are thick, designed to withstand the ravages of time and enemy siege alike, and much of the structure still stands, a testament to the engineering prowess of the Urartians. As you approach the site, you are immediately struck by the scale of the ruins, towering walls that reach up to 10 meters high, carved into the rock, their surfaces etched with symbols whose meanings remain elusive. The city's positioning atop a hill allowed its inhabitants to have a commanding view of the surrounding region, hinting at a society that was deeply concerned with both defense and dominance. Inside the fortress, there are the remains of several buildings, including what is believed to have been a palace or a central hall. The layout of the city itself suggests a highly organized and stratified society, with distinct areas for both public and private life. There are also remains of a sophisticated water system, which includes channels and reservoirs that likely supplied the inhabitants with fresh water during dry seasons. These features point to a civilization that was not only focused on warfare and defense, but also on the practicalities of daily life, one that had mastered the art of surviving and thriving in a harsh landscape. However, it is not only the visible remnants of Çavuştepe that captivate the imagination. It is the deeper questions about the site that have yet to be fully answered. The Urartians, despite their impressive achievements, remain an enigma. Unlike the Egyptians or Mesopotamians, who left behind extensive written records, the Urartians did not produce a body of literature or inscriptions that could explain their society's beliefs, customs, and political organization. The few surviving Urartian inscriptions, often found on monuments and stelae, remain partially undeciphered, leaving archaeologists to piece together their history from the material remains. One of the most intriguing elements of Çavuştepe is the carvings and reliefs that adorn the walls of the fortress. Many of these carvings depict scenes of battle, but there are also abstract symbols and figures that seem to represent deities or supernatural beings. What do these symbols signify? Were they part of a religious system that linked the Urartians to their gods, or were they more closely tied to the earthly power structures of the time? Some researchers have suggested that these carvings might represent an early form of state propaganda, designed to solidify the power of Urartian kings and to remind their subjects of the divine favor they supposedly enjoyed. Others have proposed that the carvings are representations of ritualistic practices, perhaps linked to the worship of nature spirits or astral deities. The most puzzling aspect of Çavuştepe, however, lies in its connection to the wider Urartian world. The Urartians, like many ancient civilizations, were heavily influenced by their neighbors, particularly the Assyrians. The Assyrians were known for their military conquests and their ability to assimilate other cultures into their empire. It is possible that the Urartians were caught in a delicate balancing act, trying to maintain their independence while also adopting certain aspects of Assyrian culture and governance. Did the Urartians see themselves as rivals to the Assyrians, or were they more closely aligned with them? And what, if any, role did Çavuştepe play in this broader geopolitical struggle? One theory suggests that the fortress of Çavuştepe was part of a larger network of defensive structures designed to protect the Urartian kingdom from Assyrian expansion. The Urartians, after all, were known for their military might, and their kingdom was strategically positioned at the crossroads of several key trade routes. Could the fortress have served as both a military outpost and a symbolic center of Urartian power, a place where military leaders and priests gathered to plan their defense and commune with their gods? But if Çavuştepe was truly a symbol of Urartian strength and dominance, then why was it abandoned? The decline of the Urartian kingdom in the 6th century BC is still a subject of intense scholarly debate. Some believe that the kingdom fell to the Assyrians, who gradually expanded their empire across the region. Others suggest that internal strife and economic decline played a role in the Urartians' downfall. Regardless of the cause, the abandonment of Çavuştepe, like many ancient sites, leaves behind an aura of mystery. Why did a once thriving civilization, with its impressive fortifications and complex society, simply fade from history? There is also the question of the site's possible religious significance. The Urartians were known to worship a variety of gods, and many of these deities are represented in the carvings found at Çavuştepe. Some scholars believe that the fortress may have been a center for religious rituals, perhaps even a site for the veneration of a particular god or goddess who was believed to protect the Urartian people. Was Çavuştepe not just a military stronghold, but also a place of spiritual power, a place where the gods were thought to dwell in the stone and soil? The site's isolated location adds another layer of intrigue. Çavuştepe sits far from the major centers of Urartian power, in a region that is not as easily accessible as the urban hubs of the time. Was this strategic positioning a deliberate choice, designed to protect the Urartians from invasion, or did it have some other, less tangible significance? Could Çavuştepe have been a site of pilgrimage, a sacred place where the people of Urartu came to seek the favor of the gods? If so, what role did this location play in the broader religious and political landscape of the Urartian kingdom? Despite centuries of study, Çavuştepe remains an enigma. Its walls still stand tall, silently guarding their secrets. The Urartian civilization, with its complex mix of military prowess, religious devotion, and artistic expression, leaves us with more questions than answers. As we stand before these ancient stones, one cannot help but wonder, what truths have been lost to time, and what might still be hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? As we leave behind the stone fortresses of eastern Anatolia, we now turn our gaze to a very different landscape, a place where nature and human ingenuity intertwined in a truly unique way. Nestled in the valley of what is now southern Mexico, we find the Cuicuilco circular pyramid, an ancient structure that seems to defy the conventional norms of Mesoamerican architecture and, in its very design, raises more questions than it answers. While it may not boast the grandeur of the pyramids at Teotihuacan or the intricate carvings of Copan, Cuicuilco is no less fascinating. In fact, it may hold the key to understanding a much older and more mysterious chapter of pre-Columbian civilization. The Cuicuilco pyramid is an anomaly in many ways. Located in the Valley of Mexico, at the edge of modern-day Mexico City, this circular mound rises out of the landscape, its truncated form creating a striking silhouette against the surrounding volcanic terrain. Unlike the towering step pyramids that dominate the Mesoamerican world, Cuicuilco is distinct in its circular shape, a feature that sets it apart from almost every other major pyramid in the Americas. The pyramid's unique design has prompted scholars to question why it was built in such a way, and whether it suggests a different kind of religious or cultural purpose than those of the more commonly known civilizations in the region. The site itself was likely constructed sometime around 800 BC, though there are suggestions that the origins of the pyramid may stretch further back. Built by the Cuicuilco people, a civilization that thrived in this area before the rise of Teotihuacan, Cuicuilco was once a flourishing urban center. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of a well-developed society that engaged in trade, agriculture, and craftsmanship. The people of Cuicuilco constructed other buildings around the pyramid, including residences and ceremonial spaces, and the city is thought to have been a significant center for religious and political life. At its height, Cuicuilco likely served as a vital hub for a network of smaller settlements in the region. But it is the pyramid itself that remains the focal point of intrigue. The structure is not just unusual for its shape. It also stands as a silent testament to a civilization that disappeared before it could leave behind much of a written record. Unlike other Mesoamerican pyramids, which often incorporate large stone blocks, Cuicuilco is built primarily of volcanic rock, giving it a much rougher and more primitive appearance. The pyramid is thought to have originally stood over 20 meters tall, though much of its height has been lost over the centuries due to erosion and the passage of time. Perhaps one of the most striking features of the Cuicuilco pyramid is its alignment with the surrounding landscape. The structure faces the rising sun, suggesting that the people of Cuicuilco may have had a sophisticated understanding of celestial events. Was this pyramid an observatory, or was it a place for ritual and offerings to the gods? We know that in many Mesoamerican cultures, pyramids were often linked to religious ceremonies that involved the observation of solar and lunar cycles. The Cuicuilco pyramid could have played a similar role, serving as a site for rituals meant to honor the forces of nature. But how much did the builders of this ancient site truly understand about the stars, the sun, and the patterns of the heavens? Were they aware of astronomical phenomena that were unknown to other civilizations at the time? The true purpose of the Cuicuilco pyramid remains a subject of much debate. One theory suggests that it served as a ceremonial platform for religious rituals, similar to the purpose of many other Mesoamerican pyramids. The circular shape might have been intended to symbolize the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth, themes that were central to many Mesoamerican belief systems. However, there is also a fascinating possibility that Cuicuilco's circular shape was designed for a specific function not seen elsewhere in Mesoamerica. Some researchers have proposed that the pyramid was built as a kind of solar observatory, designed to track the movements of the sun and moon over the course of the year. This theory is supported by the precision of its alignment, which seems to correspond to the changing positions of the sun during the solstices. What makes the story of Cuicuilco even more intriguing is the theory that the site was abruptly abandoned. Around 100 BC, after the pyramid's construction, Cuicuilco seems to have been rapidly abandoned, though no definitive reason for this collapse has been found. Some have pointed to the eruption of nearby volcanoes, particularly the eruption of the Sitla volcano, as the cause. The eruption, which would have covered much of the surrounding region with ash and lava, might have rendered the area uninhabitable and forced the people of Cuicuilco to flee. If this theory is correct, it would mean that the pyramid and its surrounding city were effectively destroyed in a matter of days or weeks, forcing the once prosperous civilization to disperse and leaving their remarkable creation to the ravages of time. This catastrophic event, however, leaves us with yet another layer of mystery: the abrupt end of a thriving city and its monumental pyramid. Was this disaster the sole reason for the collapse of Cuicuilco, or were there other, less obvious factors at play? The eruption of Sitla could have been the final blow, but what if Cuicuilco's decline had already begun before the eruption? Could internal strife, environmental stress, or even a gradual shift in cultural priorities have contributed to the city's abandonment? These questions remain unanswered, and we are left to wonder what knowledge and cultural achievements may have been lost in the wake of the disaster. Moreover, the volcanic destruction of Cuicuilco gives rise to another fascinating theory. Some scholars have speculated that the pyramid itself may have held some form of sacred power that the eruption could not destroy. Could the people of Cuicuilco have believed that the pyramid was a living entity, that its destruction would have signified the end of their way of life? It is also possible that the pyramid, like many Mesoamerican structures, was seen as a cosmic axis, a link between the gods and the earthly realm. If so, its abandonment could have marked a profound spiritual crisis for the people, one that was exacerbated by the eruption. Yet even today, the site still holds a certain mystery, an aura of something unfinished, something that may never be fully understood. As we look upon the ruins of Cuicuilco, we are confronted not just by the stone of an ancient civilization, but by the lingering questions of what was lost and what remains hidden beneath the layers of ash and time. Was Cuicuilco truly an observatory, a ceremonial center, or something else entirely? What role did its circular pyramid play in the culture of its people? And most intriguingly, what happened to the city after its sudden abandonment? The eruption of Sitla may have sealed its fate, but was it the only cause of Cuicuilco's fall? Could there be more to the story that we are yet to uncover? These questions remain as elusive as the city itself, and with each passing year, as new excavations and studies are conducted, the mystery of Cuicuilco deepens. The site, though largely forgotten by the modern world, still holds the key to an untold chapter in the history of Mesoamerica, one that may yet reveal its secrets to those willing to listen to the silence of the stones. From the stark and volcanic remnants of Cuicuilco, we now journey eastward, to a lush and vibrant landscape that holds its own share of ancient secrets. Nestled deep within the heart of Bali, Indonesia, lies Gunung Kawi, an archaeological site that, like so many others, seems to hold more questions than answers. Here, the past is etched not into stone tablets or grand monuments, but into the very rock faces of a hidden valley. The shrines of Gunung Kawi are carved into the sheer cliffs above the Paquimé River, and their mysterious beauty has fascinated visitors and scholars alike for centuries. To visit Gunung Kawi is to step into a landscape that feels both timeless and sacred. The site is spread across 2 temples, each tucked away within a steep ravine and accessible only through a winding path that leads you past lush tropical greenery. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and incense, and the distant sounds of water rushing over rocks create an atmosphere of both reverence and solitude. As you approach the shrines, the first thing that strikes you is their sheer scale. Massive rock-cut reliefs of shrines, tombs, and sacred niches, all meticulously carved into the rock faces as if they were meant to last forever. The largest of the shrines, known as Candi Gunung Kawi, is believed to date back to the 11th century, though some researchers suggest that the site could be older. The shrines are thought to have been commissioned by the king of Udayana, who ruled Bali during the Majapahit period, and are dedicated to his family members. This site is one of the most important in Balinese history, both spiritually and culturally. The carvings depict a series of monument-like tombs, which are thought to represent the royal family members buried there, but their true purpose remains a subject of debate. The shrines themselves are not like the traditional temples one might find in Bali. Instead, they are deeply integrated into the natural landscape, as if the stones themselves were the canvas for these intricate works of art. Each of the shrines is carved into the cliff face, creating a visual display of grandeur and reverence. Yet, despite their sheer size and impressive workmanship, the shrines themselves remain curiously unfinished. The figures are not fully detailed, and in some places, the carvings appear almost as if they were abandoned mid-process. This incomplete nature has raised questions about the intent behind the shrines. Were they hastily constructed, or was there a deliberate reason for their unfinished state? In the case of the Gunung Kawi shrines, scholars have long speculated about the significance of the unfinished carvings. Some suggest that they may have been part of a larger, grander plan that was ultimately abandoned. Could the king's family have planned to build a vast necropolis, with each shrine symbolizing a different royal ancestor? If so, why was the work left incomplete? And why were the carvings placed on such a steep and inaccessible part of the cliffside? Was it a deliberate choice to ensure that only the most devoted could access the site? Or was there some other, more esoteric reason for its location? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that the site was not simply a place of burial. It may also have had a functional, ceremonial purpose. Some researchers suggest that the shrines were used for royal rites, including ceremonies associated with the divine, or that they served as markers for a pilgrimage route. The idea of Gunung Kawi as a pilgrimage site is particularly compelling, as the Pekarisan River, which runs past the shrines, has long been considered sacred by the Balinese people. Could the shrines have been built to honor the river, or to symbolize the connection between the mortal world and the divine? Another layer of mystery surrounds the precise methods used to create these shrines. The sheer scale of the carvings, many of which are over 7 meters high, suggests a level of engineering skill that would have been extraordinary for the time. How did the builders carve so deeply into the rock without modern tools? Were they using advanced techniques, perhaps ones that have been lost to history? The lack of detailed records from the period leaves us to wonder whether the creators of Gunung Kawi possessed knowledge or craftsmanship that has not yet been fully understood. Were they simply master stone carvers, or did they possess knowledge passed down from earlier unknown civilizations? As if the unfinished shrines themselves weren't enough to provoke curiosity, there are also rumors of hidden chambers within the site. Some have claimed that there are secret passages and hidden tombs behind the carvings, passages that have yet to be uncovered by modern archaeology. Could there be more to the site than meets the eye? Were the royal family members who were supposedly buried here interred with treasures or relics that were hidden away in concealed chambers? If such chambers exist, what might they contain? Gold, ancient texts, or perhaps something far more enigmatic, artifacts that could hold keys to unlocking the deeper mysteries of Bali's past. The hidden shrines of Gunung Kawi also suggest something deeper, something spiritual, that goes beyond mere architectural achievement. Bali itself has long been known as a land of mystical energy and religious devotion, with temples and shrines scattered across the island, each dedicated to a myriad of gods, ancestors, and natural forces. In the case of Gunung Kawi, the site's sheer scale and the majesty of its carvings suggest that it was a place of profound spiritual significance, possibly used to channel divine power or to invoke the presence of the gods. Could these rock-carved shrines have served as portals to the divine, connecting the earthly realm to the supernatural? There are even suggestions that Gunung Kawi was influenced by earlier religious practices, possibly even those of India, where similar rock-cut temples and shrines can be found. Did the creators of Gunung Kawi draw on traditions from across Southeast Asia, blending local Balinese beliefs with the more cosmopolitan ideas of the wider region? The blending of religious and cultural influences is a hallmark of many ancient sites, but here, the mystery is compounded by the lack of written records. How much of the story of Gunung Kawi has been lost to time, and how much remains hidden beneath the soil and stone? The site is also notable for its setting in the natural world. Surrounded by terraced rice fields and towering palm trees, the shrines are framed by the beauty of Bali's dense jungles. Could the landscape itself have held a special meaning for the people who built Gunung Kawi? Many ancient cultures believed that sacred sites should be in harmony with the natural world, with certain geographic features, such as mountains, rivers, and forests, imbued with spiritual significance. Was Gunung Kawi built to align with the natural forces of the landscape, creating a space where human and divine energies could intersect? As we stand before the massive rock faces of Gunung Kawi, we are reminded of how much is still unknown about the ancient peoples of Bali. What drove the creation of these awe-inspiring shrines, and why was such a grand project left unfinished? What secrets still lie hidden within the rock, beneath the surface of the earth, or locked away in forgotten chambers? The unanswered questions around Gunung Kawi are as compelling as the site itself, inviting us to look beyond the stone and search for the deeper truths about the people who once called this place home. Perhaps, just as the river continues to flow below, the mysteries of Gunung Kawi will continue to run deep, leaving us to ponder the hidden legacies of a civilization that remains shrouded in time. As we leave behind the spiritual and natural wonder of Bali's Gunung Kawi, we now turn to the arid landscapes of northern Mexico, to a site whose significance has perplexed archaeologists and historians alike for centuries. In the vast Chihuahua Desert, amidst the flat, scrubby terrain, lie the Paquimé Ruins, an ancient city whose purpose, origins, and eventual decline remain shrouded in mystery. Known also as Casas Grandes, these ruins stand as a testament to a once thriving civilization, but much of its story remains untold. The Paquimé Ruins are located near the modern-day city of Casas Grandes, Mexico, and the site is spread across a remarkable expanse of land. From a distance, the jagged remnants of stone structures rise from the desert floor like ancient monuments to a lost people, their labyrinthine passageways and towering walls silently guarding their secrets. The site, thought to have been occupied from around 1000 AD to 1400 AD, is one of the most significant pre-Columbian archaeological sites in the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. The most striking feature of Paquimé is its architectural style, which is unique to the region. Unlike the typical adobe structures seen in other desert dwellings, the buildings at Paquimé are made from massive blocks of adobe and stone, and many of them were built in a distinctive step-like pattern that resembles the ancient cliff dwellings of the American Southwest. The largest structures at the site are multi-story buildings, some as high as 4 stories, with large courtyards and numerous rooms. The complex layout of Paquimé, with its intricate network of rooms, plazas, and passageways, suggests that it was a place of great social and political significance. At its peak, Paquimé may have been home to thousands of people, and it likely served as a center for trade, religion, and politics. The ruins contain numerous examples of pottery, jewelry, and other artifacts, many of which display sophisticated craftsmanship. The pottery found at Paquimé is particularly noteworthy for its intricate designs, which suggest a deep cultural and spiritual connection to the surrounding environment. The site is also famous for its distinctive mound structures, large circular platforms that may have served as ceremonial spaces or platforms for ritual events. Yet, for all its grandeur, Paquimé's story remains one of the most puzzling in the history of ancient civilizations. The most enigmatic aspect of the site is its sudden abandonment. By the early 15th century, Paquimé was largely deserted, and the reasons behind its decline are still unknown. Was it the result of internal conflict, resource depletion, or something more catastrophic, like drought or disease? The absence of written records means that we can only speculate about the causes of Paquimé's fall, but the clues are tantalizing. One of the prevailing theories is that Paquimé's decline was linked to environmental changes in the region. The desert environment of northern Mexico is notoriously harsh, and over the centuries, climate shifts, including prolonged periods of drought, may have contributed to the collapse of the city. The Paquimé people were heavily dependent on irrigation systems to support their agriculture, and if the water supply dwindled, it could have caused food shortages, leading to social unrest and the eventual abandonment of the site. But if environmental factors were to blame, why did the inhabitants leave so suddenly? Could there have been other, more immediate factors that triggered their departure? Another theory centers around the idea of internal conflict. The people of Paquimé were known for their intricate social structures, and it is possible that political instability or power struggles within the city led to its downfall. Evidence of large-scale warfare or signs of violent conflict have been found at other archaeological sites in the region, and it's conceivable that similar events unfolded at Paquimé. Could the city have been overrun by rival factions or neighboring groups? If so, what would have prompted such an intense struggle for control? The collapse of complex societies is often linked to internal power struggles, but we lack concrete evidence to confirm such a theory for Paquimé. A more speculative explanation involves the idea of external invasion. There is evidence that the Paquimé civilization engaged in trade with distant cultures, including the Mesoamerican peoples to the south. It is possible that the city was attacked by foreign invaders, although no definitive archaeological evidence supports this theory. Some researchers have suggested that the region could have fallen prey to raiders from the northern deserts, while others believe that Paquimé's decline could have been due to the shifting alliances and conflicts between various groups across the region. Yet another compelling idea is that the city's downfall was linked to cultural or religious upheaval. Paquimé was a site of great cultural exchange, and its unique architecture and artifacts suggest that its inhabitants may have held beliefs and practices that were different from those of other neighboring cultures. Perhaps the abandonment of Paquimé was driven by a cultural or religious shift, a desire to break from the past or seek new beginnings. The sudden departure of a society, particularly one as large and developed as Paquimé, might point to a profound change in belief systems or social order. Could there have been a mass exodus, driven by a new religious or spiritual movement? Could the people have abandoned their former city, seeking a new place to build and start fresh? Adding to the enigma of Paquimé is the fact that the site seems to have been deliberately and almost symbolically abandoned. Unlike other ancient cities that slowly decayed or fell into ruin over time, the buildings at Paquimé were left intact, but largely empty. The elaborate architecture and artifacts were left behind as if the inhabitants had simply vanished. There is no clear evidence of destruction or violence, which would be typical of a society being overtaken. Instead, The site seems to have been vacated almost overnight, and this sudden departure only deepens the mystery. What caused such a decisive break from the past? Was it a sudden crisis, or was it part of a broader cultural shift? The ruins of Paquimé, while impressive, raise more questions than they answer. What happened to the people who built this remarkable city, and why did they leave it so abruptly? Was the city abandoned due to environmental factors, internal conflict, or something more enigmatic? And most intriguing of all, what remains hidden beneath the sands and stone of Paquimé? Are there more secrets buried in the desert? Artifacts, structures, or perhaps even hidden chambers that could shed light on the true story of this ancient civilization? In the quiet stillness of the ruins, with the desert wind whispering through the broken walls, we are left with a profound sense of mystery. The story of Paquimé is far from over. It is only just beginning. What more can the site reveal about the lives of its people, their struggles, and their ultimate fate? Until we find the answers, the Paquimé Ruins will continue to stand as a monument to an ancient civilization that, for all its achievements, remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of the Americas. As we move from the enigma of the Paquimé Ruins, we now find ourselves in a starkly different landscape, one of wide, desolate canyons and high, craggy mesas. Here, in the Four Corners region of the American Southwest, the ancient civilization of the Anasazi once flourished, leaving behind monumental cliff dwellings and a mysterious disappearance that continues to baffle archaeologists to this day. The Anasazi, or as they are more commonly referred to now, the ancestral Puebloans, built sprawling communities in the canyons of what is now Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. Yet, by the end of the 13th century, they vanished from their cliffside homes, leaving behind not just empty dwellings, but a profound sense of intrigue that has haunted this region for centuries. One of the most notable sites of Anasazi civilization is Mesa Verde, a sprawling archaeological complex perched high in the cliffs of Colorado. The cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde are some of the most iconic images of ancient North American civilization, stone dwellings with windows looking out over the vast desert, their walls etched with the passage of time. These cliff homes, built into the very rock faces of steep canyons, represent an architectural marvel of the ancient world. The dwellings themselves seem almost mystical, clinging to the cliffs as though part of the natural landscape, perfectly designed to withstand the harsh winds and relentless sun of the desert. At its peak, the Anasazi culture thrived in these communities. Their intricate and highly developed architecture, sophisticated agricultural systems, and elaborate trade networks marked them as a people far advanced for their time. They built large, multi-story dwellings, ceremonial kivas, and even an extensive system of roads that connected their diverse communities. Yet, despite their achievements, their disappearance from the archaeological record remains one of the most profound mysteries of ancient North America. By the early 1300s, the once thriving communities of the Anasazi began to empty. The cliff dwellings were abandoned, the fields left untended, and the kivas, the ceremonial centers, became silent. No written records exist from the Anasazi, and so the reasons behind their sudden departure remain unclear. What could have caused such a dramatic and abrupt end to a thriving civilization? Was it environmental change, social upheaval, or something more mysterious that drove the Anasazi from their homes? The leading theory for the Anasazi's disappearance centers on a severe drought that struck the region in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. Archaeological evidence indicates that the region experienced a significant climatic shift during this period, with the already arid landscape becoming even more inhospitable. The Colorado Plateau, where the Anasazi had lived, saw a drastic decrease in rainfall, leading to crop failures and the collapse of the agricultural systems that the Anasazi had relied upon for centuries. As food supplies dwindled and water sources became scarce, Could the Anasazi have been forced to abandon their homes in search of more fertile land? This theory is supported by the fact that the Anasazi were dependent on irrigated farming to sustain their communities, particularly corn, beans, and squash. As the drought persisted, the community's ability to feed itself would have been severely compromised, leading to famine, malnutrition, and ultimately the mass exodus from the cliff dwellings. If this was indeed the cause, it raises a key question. Why, then, did the Anasazi leave their homes in the first place, only to retreat to other areas that were similarly affected by drought? But the theory of environmental change does not entirely account for the suddenness of the abandonment. The ruins of the cliff dwellings show little evidence of violence or warfare, suggesting that the Anasazi were not driven from their homes by external conflict. Some researchers have speculated that internal social unrest may have played a role, perhaps the arrival of new cultural influences, a breakdown in leadership, or the fracturing of the society itself. Could it be that, as resources became scarce, the Anasazi turned on each other, leading to a complete collapse of their once cohesive society? The absence of human remains in many of the sites suggests that the migration was peaceful, but could it have been the result of political or social disintegration rather than environmental factors alone? Another theory, albeit more speculative, is that the Anasazi's disappearance was linked to spiritual or religious factors. The Anasazi people were deeply connected to the land, with complex religious beliefs tied to the cycles of nature. It is possible that they saw the environmental changes, such as the prolonged drought, as a sign from the gods, a message that their time in the region had come to an end. In this view, the migration might not have been a flight from disaster, but rather a purposeful decision to abandon their homes in search of new spiritual guidance, or perhaps a return to more sacred or revered locations. This theory, while intriguing, lacks the concrete evidence to substantiate it fully, but it does add a layer of mysticism to the narrative of their disappearance. There are also fringe theories, drawing on the more mystical aspects of the Anasazi culture, that suggest extraterrestrial influence or the involvement of unknown ancient technologies. Some believe that the Anasazi's advanced knowledge of astronomy and geometry, as well as the complexity of their cliff dwellings, points to a civilization that had access to technologies far beyond their time. Could their sudden disappearance have been due to the arrival of otherworldly beings, or perhaps a lost technology that was never meant to be uncovered? Such theories remain on the fringes of mainstream archaeology, yet they persist in part because of the absence of clear, definitive evidence to explain the disappearance in more conventional terms. While we can entertain various theories, one thing remains certain. The mystery of the Anasazi's disappearance is far from solved. Even though many of their descendants continue to live in the Southwest today, the exact causes of their abandonment of the cliff dwellings remain elusive. Was it a slow migration driven by environmental collapse? Or did something more sudden and catastrophic trigger the exodus? And what became of the Anasazi after they left their homes? Did they disperse into neighboring tribes and civilizations, or did they disappear from history altogether? The cliff dwellings, with their silent rooms and untouched kivas, still stand as haunting reminders of a people who once thrived in this remote corner of the world. They are a testament to a culture that achieved remarkable feats of architecture and agriculture, yet ultimately vanished into the desert winds, leaving only fragments of their story behind. As we look out over the vast canyon landscapes of the American Southwest, we are left to wonder, what secrets are hidden in the stone, and what might we yet uncover about the people who built these remarkable structures? The Anasazi's disappearance remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of ancient North America, and perhaps, just as the desert winds continue to shape the land, the true answer to their fate will remain buried beneath the sands of time. As we move from the vast and haunting landscapes of the American Southwest, we journey now to the windswept plains of southern Portugal, where a monument of stone and mystery stands silently against the backdrop of the Alentejo countryside. Here, in the heart of the Iberian Peninsula, lies the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro, a megalithic structure that has captivated archaeologists and historians for centuries. Known for its imposing size and enigmatic presence, this dolmen is not just another relic of ancient civilization. It is a doorway into a world of ritual, mystery, and forgotten knowledge. The dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro is part of a larger complex of megalithic structures scattered across the region, but it stands out due to its sheer scale and grandeur. The dolmen is a type of ancient burial chamber, a place where the dead were interred and where the living performed sacred rituals. What makes this particular dolmen so remarkable is its size. It is the largest of its kind in the Iberian Peninsula, with a long corridor leading to a vast burial chamber. The structure consists of a series of massive stones, some weighing several tons, arranged in a way that forms both a passageway and a central chamber. The entire monument is surrounded by a large cairn, or mound of earth and stones, that would have once been visible for miles around, an imposing symbol of power and mystery. Standing before the dolmen today, it is difficult not to be struck by the sheer scale of the monument. The stones are weathered and worn, but their solidity remains, as if they are frozen in time, silently guarding the secrets of an ancient people. The passageway leading into the chamber is narrow, the stones above it towering like silent sentinels. Inside the chamber, the air is thick with history, yet there is an eerie stillness. No inscriptions, no markings to indicate who built this structure or why it was so carefully constructed. The monument feels as if it were built not just to honor the dead, but to transcend time itself, inviting the living to witness something much greater than themselves. The origins of the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro remain a subject of considerable debate. The site is thought to date back to around 3000 BC, placing it within the Neolithic period, a time when early human societies were transitioning from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to settled farming communities. The people who constructed the dolmen were part of a broader megalithic tradition that spanned much of Europe. These ancient builders, whose names and cultures have been lost to history, are thought to have shared a belief in the sacredness of stone, believing that the act of placing massive stones upright and aligning them with celestial events could establish a connection between the earthly and the divine. But who were the people who built this monument, and why did they invest so much effort into its construction? Archaeologists have long theorized that these megalithic structures served as burial chambers, a way to honor the dead and ensure a safe passage into the afterlife. The dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro, with its vast size and its central burial chamber, seems to fit this model. Yet, despite the fact that human remains have been found in some of the dolmens of the region, little to no evidence of actual burials have been discovered at this particular site. Does this suggest that the dolmen served a different function altogether, one that remains hidden from view? One of the most compelling aspects of the dolmen is its alignment with the natural world. Like many other megalithic structures, the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro seems to be aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, marking the changing of the seasons and the passage of time. The chamber, while still largely intact, is oriented in such a way that it is perfectly aligned with the setting sun during the winter solstice. This connection to the heavens and the cycles of nature speaks to a deep understanding of the cosmos by the people who built the dolmen. But why was this particular alignment so important? What was the significance of marking the passage of time in such a monumental and precise way? The idea of celestial alignment raises the question of whether the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro was used for ceremonial purposes, perhaps as a place where the living communed with the dead or made offerings to the gods. The size of the monument and its strategic location suggest that it may have been a place of great importance to the people of the region. In fact, some researchers speculate that the dolmen may have served as a ritual center, a place where the community gathered to mark important events such as the changing of the seasons, harvests, or other key moments in the agricultural calendar. However, despite the various theories about its use, the exact purpose of the dolmen remains elusive. Could it have been a place of astronomical observation, where the alignment of the stones was used to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars? Or was it a sacred portal, a site where the living made offerings to the ancestors, seeking to maintain a balance between the worlds of the living and the dead? The absence of clear evidence makes it difficult to reach definitive conclusions, but the structure itself, with its monumental presence and cosmic alignment, suggests that its purpose was something much greater than a mere burial site. The mystery of the dolmen is further compounded by the absence of any written records or inscriptions. Unlike the civilizations of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Mesoamerica, which left behind extensive written accounts of their history and religious beliefs, the builders of the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro left no written words to explain their purpose. We can only infer their beliefs and motivations from the structure itself and the surrounding landscape. Yet, this silence speaks volumes. Perhaps the dolmen was built as a monument to something that transcended human understanding, a means of capturing a fleeting moment in time that is now lost to history. Adding to the mystery are the numerous other megalithic structures scattered across the Iberian Peninsula, many of which are similar in design to the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro. These megaliths, often found in isolation or in small clusters, seem to form a web of interconnected sites, each with its own unique characteristics. Some are burial chambers, others ceremonial sites, and some appear to be purely astronomical observatories. Yet, despite their commonalities, each site has its own distinct features, suggesting that the people who built them had different beliefs and practices, and yet shared a common cultural tradition. Could these structures have been part of a larger network of sacred sites, with the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro serving as one of the most important centers of this tradition? And then, there are the more speculative theories. Some suggest that these megalithic structures could be connected to ancient, lost civilizations, cultures that possessed advanced knowledge and technology far beyond what we currently understand. Could the builders of the dolmen have been part of a forgotten culture that existed long before the rise of the great civilizations of the Mediterranean? Or were they simply an isolated society with a unique understanding of the cosmos and the afterlife, whose legacy has been obscured by time? As we stand before the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro, the wind stirring the earth around us, we are left to ponder the mysteries that remain. What was the true purpose of this vast stone structure? Was it a simple burial site, a place for ritual and ceremony, or something more? A portal to another world, a connection between the living and the divine? And what secrets lie hidden beneath the earth and stone, waiting to be uncovered by future generations? For now, the dolmen stands as a silent sentinel to the past, its purpose lost in the sands of time, yet still calling out to those who are willing to listen. From the windswept plains of southern Portugal, we now travel across the vast expanse of South America to the rugged, mountainous terrain of Argentina, where an ancient mystery lies hidden in the folds of the Andes. There, in the Quebrada de los Quilmes, we find the Quilmes Ruins, a sprawling, enigmatic site that speaks to the resilience and ingenuity of a long-lost civilization. The ruins are nestled against the slopes of the Sierra de Santa Barbara, where the towering peaks seem to hold the secrets of the past close, shrouded in mist and legend. The Quilmes people, part of the larger Diaguita group, built their stone fortress over 1,000 years ago, and it is a place where history and mystery collide. The site consists of a series of terraces, walls, and enclosures that once formed a massive fortress, designed not only as a defensive stronghold, but also as a symbol of power and unity for the people who lived there. The ruins are now a sprawling complex of stone structures, arranged across a series of terraces that climb the mountainside. When standing before these remnants, the sheer scale of the construction is staggering. The walls, though weathered by centuries of exposure, still hold the shape of something formidable. The terraces seem to rise from the earth as if they were one with the mountain itself, each step carved into the landscape, each stone placed with purpose. At its peak, the Quilmes settlement was one of the largest and most advanced in the region. The ruins are a testament to the Quilmes people's expertise in architecture, agriculture, and social organization. The terraces, built into the steep slopes of the mountains, were designed to hold agricultural fields, while the stone enclosures served as homes, communal spaces, and defensive fortifications. From these high vantage points, it is easy to imagine the Quilmes people looking out over their territory, watching as the sun rose and set over the vast expanse of the valley below, their society thriving in isolation, far from the reach of invaders. But despite the scale of the Quilmes ruins and the apparent sophistication of their builders, the mystery surrounding the fate of the Quilmes people remains largely unsolved. The site is thought to have been abandoned around 1660, long after the Spanish arrived in the region. But why? What caused this once thriving civilization to disappear, leaving behind only the stone remnants of their world? The answers to these questions are elusive, and the more we uncover, the more complex the mystery becomes. The mainstream explanation for the decline of the Quilmes people revolves around the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. As the Spanish began their conquest of the region, the Quilmes, like many other indigenous peoples, were subjected to violence, disease, and the forced relocation of their populations. The Quilmes were no exception. In fact, many of the Quilmes people were forced to march across the Andes to a settlement in Buenos Aires, where they were used as laborers by the Spanish. The Quilmes lost their autonomy, their traditions were upended, and their social structures shattered. The once great fortress, with its terraces and enclosures, was left to crumble. But this explanation, while plausible, raises more questions than it answers. For one, the Quilmes people were not easily conquered. The site itself was built with incredible foresight and military strategy in mind. The walls, the terraces, and the layout of the settlement suggest a people well prepared for defense and self-sufficiency. How, then, did the Spanish manage to break their hold on the Quilmes? Were they really so vulnerable to foreign invaders, or was there something more at play? Some researchers suggest that internal factors, such as social unrest or resource depletion, might have contributed to the decline of the Quilmes before the Spanish arrived. The Quilmes civilization, though remarkable, was not without its challenges. Life in the rugged mountain terrain was not easy, and agricultural production, though sophisticated, would have required constant effort to maintain. Could it be that, over time, the Quilmes society began to fracture under the weight of environmental stress or internal conflict, weakening them before the Spanish even set foot in the region? Yet another theory, more speculative but intriguing, suggests that the Quilmes might have abandoned their mountain stronghold for reasons other than conflict. Some have proposed that the Quilmes were in search of spiritual renewal or some form of societal transformation. The position of the Quilmes ruins on the mountain, overlooking the valley below, raises questions about the spiritual and symbolic significance of the site. Could the Quilmes have retreated to the highlands in order to reconnect with a deeper, more transcendent part of their culture? Was the fortress not just a defensive structure, but also a place of spiritual transformation, a place where the earth, the sky, and the people were bound together in a sacred harmony? If so, the abandonment of the site would have been more than just a physical departure. It would have marked the end of an era of spiritual significance, a transformation of their worldview. Beyond these theories, there are more fringe ideas that have circulated over the years. ideas that, while lacking the support of mainstream archaeology, continue to spark intrigue. Some have speculated that the Quilmes people may have possessed knowledge of advanced astronomical techniques or hidden technologies, knowledge that was lost to history as their culture faded away. Could the Quilmes have known something about the natural world, or even the stars, that we have yet to understand? Were their impressive architectural feats not just a matter of construction, but of cosmic design, tied to the heavens in ways that we are only beginning to comprehend? Another fringe theory posits that the Quilmes people may have been influenced by civilizations far beyond their immediate geographical area. Were the Quilmes connected to ancient traditions from the Andean cultures, or possibly even from Mesoamerica? The exchange of ideas, artifacts, and practices between distant cultures in the Americas has long been a subject of fascination. Could there have been a shared set of beliefs or technologies that linked the Quilmes to other ancient civilizations in the New World, a connection that remains hidden beneath the surface of history? But, as with many of the world's ancient mysteries, these theories remain speculative, unprovable with the evidence currently available. What we do know is that the Quilmes ruins stand as a silent testament to a people whose story is not easily told. The site is a relic of a civilization that flourished for centuries, its people displaying extraordinary skill in architecture, agriculture, and defense. Yet, in the end, the Quilmes disappeared as suddenly as they had risen, leaving behind only their monumental ruins as evidence of their existence. As we stand before the crumbling stone walls of the Quilmes ruins, we are left to wonder, what truly happened to the Quilmes people? Did they succumb to the forces of nature and the arrival of foreign conquerors, or did something more profound drive them away from their fortress? What secrets are still hidden within the stones, the terraces, and the mountains that once protected them? And perhaps most intriguingly, what remnants of their knowledge and culture lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered by future explorers? The Quilmes ruins remain an enduring mystery, a place where the past lingers in the shadows, urging us to ask the questions that have yet to be answered. We now journey deep into the heart of southern Africa, to a place that has long mystified historians, archaeologists, and explorers alike. The Great Zimbabwe Ruins, an ancient site rising from the dry savanna of modern-day Zimbabwe, stand as a testament to an advanced civilization whose origins remain shrouded in mystery. Spanning several centuries, from roughly the 11th to the 15th century AD, these ruins represent one of the most extraordinary architectural achievements in sub-Saharan Africa, yet their builders and the exact nature of their civilization remain subjects of intense debate and intrigue. Nestled in the southeastern hills of Zimbabwe, the Great Zimbabwe Ruins cover an expansive area, with several key structures still standing as a haunting reminder of the power and sophistication of the people who once called this place home. The most prominent of these structures is the Great Enclosure, an imposing stone wall that encircles an inner courtyard. Constructed without the use of mortar, the walls stand as high as 11 meters, 36 feet in some places, and stretch for nearly 250 meters in total length. The sheer scale of this complex is breathtaking, a monumental achievement in an era long before the advent of modern construction techniques. And yet, despite its vastness and complexity, the Great Enclosure, like much of the site, raises more questions than it answers. As we wander through the site, the ancient walls seem to hum with a silent history. Some sections of the Great Enclosure are decorated with geometric patterns, etched into the stones, while other parts of the structure are perfectly smooth and unadorned, their surfaces worn down by centuries of wind and rain. What purpose did these walls serve? Was the Great Enclosure a royal palace, a temple, or something else entirely? The site's name, Great Zimbabwe, means Great Stone House in the local Shona language, but the precise function of the stone structures remains a subject of speculation. We know that the walls were likely used for ceremonial and possibly religious purposes, but the exact nature of those rituals, the role of the elites who inhabited the site, and the significance of the geometric markings remain unknown. But the great enclosure is not the only awe-inspiring feature of the ruins. There is also the hill complex, a series of stone platforms and walls built atop a hill that overlooks the surrounding area. The hill complex is thought to have been the heart of the city, the place where the elite class of the great Zimbabwe civilization lived and conducted their most important activities. The platforms here are surrounded by a series of stone structures that appear to have been used for ceremonial purposes, and a large number of artifacts, including pottery, beads, and iron tools, have been uncovered in this area. This suggests that the people of Great Zimbabwe were not just builders, but also skilled craftsmen and traders who engaged in a complex network of commerce, both locally and with distant civilizations. Despite the wealth of material evidence found at the site, we know very little about the people who lived here. The Great Zimbabwe Ruins are not a tomb or a temple, and unlike other ancient sites, such as Egypt or Mesopotamia, there are no extensive records or inscriptions that tell us who built the site, when they built it, or why they chose to build it in the way that they did. Some scholars believe that the builders of Great Zimbabwe were the ancestors of the modern-day Shona people, who still inhabit the region. Yet, the mysteries surrounding their civilization continue to defy easy explanation. The most widely accepted theory about the origins of the Great Zimbabwe civilization suggests that it was a center of trade and wealth. It is thought that the city's builders were involved in the gold trade, as the region around Great Zimbabwe was rich in gold deposits. This trade network likely stretched as far as the coast of the Indian Ocean, where goods were exchanged with merchants from distant lands such as Persia, Arabia, and India. Evidence of foreign trade, including fragments of Chinese porcelain, has been found at the site, indicating that the people of Great Zimbabwe were not isolated, but instead engaged in a thriving global exchange. In fact, some researchers have suggested that Great Zimbabwe may have been a major hub in the Indian Ocean trade network, linking the interior of Africa to the rest of the world. However, the more we learn about Great Zimbabwe, the more questions arise. If the city was indeed a thriving center of trade, why did it decline so suddenly and dramatically in the late 15th century? By the time the Portuguese arrived in the region in the 16th century, Great Zimbabwe had already fallen into ruin. What caused its decline? Some scholars point to environmental factors, such as deforestation or soil erosion, which could have disrupted agricultural production and weakened the city's economic base. Others suggest that internal factors, such as social unrest or political instability, may have contributed to the collapse of the civilization. Yet, despite the extensive evidence of trade and wealth, there is little indication that the people of Great Zimbabwe left behind any records or explanations for the sudden disappearance of their once great city. In addition to these more mainstream theories, there are a number of fringe ideas that have circulated over the years. One of the most persistent and controversial theories is that the Great Zimbabwe ruins were built by ancient civilizations that were not indigenous to the region, such as Phoenicians, Egyptians, or even Atlanteans. This theory is based on the assumption that the scale and sophistication of the stone structures at Great Zimbabwe are beyond the capabilities of the indigenous peoples of southern Africa at the time. Supporters of this idea argue that the site's advanced architecture and the presence of foreign trade goods point to the involvement of ancient peoples with advanced knowledge or technology. However, most mainstream archaeologists reject this theory, pointing out that there is no solid evidence to support the idea of non-African involvement in the construction of Great Zimbabwe. Instead, the prevailing view is that the Great Zimbabwe civilization was built by the ancestors of the Shona people, who possessed the necessary skills, knowledge, and resources to create such an impressive site. Another fringe theory revolves around the astrological significance of the Great Zimbabwe ruins. Some researchers suggest that the layout of the site, with its carefully constructed walls and alignment with the surrounding landscape, may have been designed to track celestial events or serve as an astronomical observatory. The idea that the people of Great Zimbabwe were deeply attuned to the movements of the stars and planets is not entirely unfounded. After all, many ancient civilizations, including those in Africa, had a deep understanding of astronomy. Could the walls and platforms of Great Zimbabwe have had a function beyond that of a city or fortress? Were they part of a larger cosmic order, a place where the people could connect with the divine and the celestial realms? Despite the many theories, both mainstream and fringe, the mystery of Great Zimbabwe remains far from solved. The site continues to reveal new secrets, and with every excavation, new questions arise. The absence of written records means that much of the history of this ancient civilization will always remain speculative. Yet, the ruins themselves, standing as silent witnesses to a long-lost world, invite us to ask, what did the people of Great Zimbabwe know? What inspired them to build such monumental structures? And why did they abandon this once thriving city? The Great Zimbabwe Ruins stand today as a symbol of both human achievement and human mystery, a place where the past lingers, waiting to be understood. As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded that some mysteries, no matter how deeply we probe, may never be fully revealed. Yet the pursuit of these answers, the quest to uncover the secrets of ancient civilizations, is what keeps us reaching into the past, forever searching, forever questioning. As we move from the rugged hills of Africa to the vast landscapes of central Anatolia in modern-day Turkey, we arrive at a site that has captivated travelers and researchers for centuries. The Göreme rock structures, located in the heart of the Cappadocia region, rise from the earth like something between the dreamscape and reality. These unique formations, sculpted over millennia by natural forces, have become an icon of ancient ingenuity. Yet, beneath their awe-inspiring appearance lies a mystery that still eludes complete understanding, a mystery about who built these structures and why. The landscape here is otherworldly. Tufaceous rocks, softened and shaped by the forces of erosion, tower in irregular formations across the valley. The volcanic landscape, formed by eruptions some 60 million years ago, has been slowly weathered into a surreal terrain, where the earth seems to shift between hard and soft, rough and smooth, creating both a striking visual contrast and a rich architectural canvas for ancient inhabitants. The Göreme rock structures are composed of both natural and man-made elements, blending seamlessly into the landscape. Ancient cave dwellings, monasteries, and churches, all carved directly into the soft rock, stand like sentinels from the past, telling stories that are as layered and complex as the formations themselves. The Göreme Open Air Museum, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is the heart of the complex. Here, visitors are greeted by a series of rock-cut churches and chapels, some dating back to the 9th century, adorned with exquisite frescoes and intricate carvings. The artwork on the walls, vivid scenes from Christian iconography, provides insight into the lives of the people who once inhabited this region. These early Christian communities, seeking refuge from religious persecution during the Byzantine period, carved their sanctuaries into the rock, creating a sacred space amid the unforgiving landscape. But even as we admire these works of art and architecture, questions linger about the true origins of these structures. For centuries, historians have attributed the creation of these rock-hewn dwellings to the early Christians of the Byzantine Empire. The Christian monastic communities are thought to have sought refuge in the caves, establishing a network of churches, chapels, and living quarters in the rock formations to avoid the wrath of invading forces or religious persecution. This explanation fits with the available historical record, and archaeological evidence supports the idea of Christians living and worshiping in the caves. The frescoes inside the churches show biblical scenes, depictions of Christ, the Virgin Mary, and the Apostles, offering us a glimpse into the spiritual life of these ancient inhabitants. However, the story does not end there. While it is well documented that Byzantine Christians lived in the Göreme rock structures, the question remains: who were the first to carve these homes into the soft, tough rock, and how did they come to inhabit such an inhospitable landscape? Some experts argue that the region's history stretches far beyond the arrival of Christianity. Evidence suggests that the area was inhabited by Hittites, Phrygians, and Romans long before the Byzantine period. There are remnants of ancient structures that predate the Christian era, suggesting that Göreme may have been home to a much earlier civilization, one with architectural knowledge far ahead of its time. Could these earlier inhabitants have played a role in shaping the rock-cut dwellings, or were they merely predecessors to the Christian communities? This is where the mystery deepens. The sheer scale of the Göreme rock structures, with their intricate, multi-level networks of tunnels, rooms, and places of worship, suggests a level of planning and architectural precision that cannot easily be explained by simple necessity. The caves, often linked by narrow passageways and even underground cities, suggest an organized and highly sophisticated community. How did these ancient peoples, living in relative isolation, manage to carve out such a complex network of stone structures with such precision, especially considering the rudimentary tools available to them at the time? The underground cities of Cappadocia, including Derinkuyu and Kaimakli, are particularly intriguing. These subterranean networks, some of which extend as deep as 60 meters, 200 feet, below the surface, were likely used for protection from invading forces. The extensive ventilation shafts, wells, and even communal kitchens suggest that these underground cities were capable of sustaining entire communities for extended periods of time. But again, the origin of these underground complexes remains a topic of debate. Were they purely defensive in nature, or did they serve a spiritual or symbolic purpose that we have yet to understand? Some researchers have proposed that the origins of the Göreme rock structures could go back even further, to the Neolithic period, thousands of years before the rise of Christianity. This theory suggests that the Hittites or even earlier pre-Christian peoples may have carved their dwellings into the soft volcanic tuff for religious or ritualistic purposes. The striking shape of the rock formations, with their pointed peaks and hollowed interiors, could have had a symbolic significance, perhaps connected to celestial or earth-based beliefs. The natural landscape, with its towering rock spires and sweeping views of the valley below, might have been seen as a place of power, a sacred space between heaven and earth, where early peoples could connect with their gods. If this is true, it raises a compelling question. Did the rock dwellings of Göreme evolve from these early sacred spaces into the more elaborate Christian structures we see today? Could the people who first settled here have been drawn to this site for spiritual or metaphysical reasons, shaping the landscape to reflect their worldview and beliefs? Another theory that has emerged, albeit more fringe, is the idea that Göreme was a site of ancient advanced knowledge, perhaps even linked to extraterrestrial influence. While this theory lacks solid archaeological support, it taps into the allure of unexplained ancient wonders that seem to transcend the limits of our understanding. The precision of the rock-cut architecture, the scale of the underground cities, and the seeming harmony between the site's natural and man-made elements have led some to speculate that the ancient inhabitants of Göreme may have had access to lost technologies or knowledge that we cannot yet explain. Could the rock formations themselves hold a deeper, hidden meaning that we have yet to uncover? Were they more than just a defensive measure or a spiritual sanctuary? As with many ancient sites, the deeper we dig into the history of Göreme, the more questions arise. What motivated these people to carve such intricate structures into the volcanic rock? Was it purely for survival, as some argue, or was there a deeper, more spiritual or metaphysical reason? And how did they develop the skill and precision required to carve these vast networks of caves and underground cities with such seeming ease? The answer to these questions may remain elusive for some time. Yet, the very presence of the Göreme rock structures serves as a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of those who came before us. The site stands as a silent reminder of ancient peoples who left behind not just walls and structures, but echoes of their beliefs, struggles, and aspirations. Even as we continue to uncover the mysteries of Göreme, it remains a place where the past and the present meet, a place where we are invited to wonder, what other secrets lie buried in the rocks, waiting to be discovered? As we leave this otherworldly landscape, one thing becomes clear. The Göreme rock structures will continue to speak to us, in their own quiet way, urging us to listen, to ask, and to seek. What were these ancient people trying to tell us? And perhaps most intriguingly, what might still be hidden, waiting for the next explorer to uncover the truth? As we leave behind the ancient rock structures of Göreme and journey across the world to the remote deserts of Peru, we arrive at a site that, like many others we've explored, raises more questions than answers. Nestled in the arid landscape of the Casma Valley, near the coast of Peru, stands a remarkable and puzzling monument, the Chankillo Solar Towers. At first glance, these ancient towers might seem like little more than a curious relic of a bygone era. But as we begin to peel back the layers of history, we discover a sophisticated and intricate astronomical site that hints at a culture far ahead of its time. The Chankillo Solar Towers consist of 13 stone structures arranged in a precise line along a hilltop, with the clear purpose of tracking the sun's movement across the sky. The towers, ranging from 2.5 to 4.5 meters in height, are positioned so that they form an alignment with the rising and setting sun on the horizon. The site is thought to date back to around 500 BC, but the true purpose of the Chankillo Solar Towers continues to elude archaeologists and historians. What we know for certain is that this place was used for some form of solar observation, perhaps for ceremonial or agricultural purposes, yet the intricacies of its design point to something far more deliberate and meaningful. At first glance, the arrangement of the towers is striking enough, but it is the way they interact with the landscape that truly sets them apart. From the top of the hill, the towers line up along the horizon with perfect precision, marking the sun's movement through the year with a clear, regular pattern. They seem to function like an ancient calendar, a tool for tracking the passage of time, and perhaps even for predicting the changing seasons. Each of the 13 towers corresponds to a specific day of the year when the sun rises or sets behind it. As the sun moves across the sky, the alignment of the towers provides a kind of celestial clock, an instrument for measuring time not in hours or minutes, but in the broader cycles of the earth and sky. The fact that the towers are placed with such precision suggests that the people who built them had a deep understanding of both astronomy and mathematics, likely utilizing these skills for the organization of their agricultural practices, ceremonial events, or perhaps even their social and political structures. Interestingly, this ancient structure predates many of the more famous astronomical sites in the Americas, such as the Mayan observatories and the Inca Sun Temple. Yet despite its early origins, the Chankillo Solar Towers display an advanced understanding of solar movements that suggests a long history of observation and celestial knowledge. While the Chankillo Solar Towers are undoubtedly remarkable, what remains even more intriguing are the mysteries surrounding their creators. Who were the people behind this extraordinary construction? The most widely accepted theory is that the site was built by the Tiahuanaco culture, a civilization that flourished in the region during the early centuries BC. However, there are no written records to confirm this, and much of their history remains shrouded in mystery. What drove this ancient people to build such an elaborate system of solar observatories in a landscape so harsh and unforgiving? Was it purely practical? a tool to aid in the agricultural cycle? Or did it have deeper, more spiritual or cosmological significance? As we explore further, some researchers have suggested that the Chankillo solar towers were not just a functional site, but also a symbolic one. The towers' alignment with the sun and the way they mark the passage of time could have been part of a larger cosmological belief system, one that tied the movements of the stars and sun to religious or ceremonial events. Could the towers have been used to mark sacred rituals or celestial events that were believed to influence the community's fate? Was the construction of such a site a form of worship, or a method of appeasing the gods of the heavens? The mystery deepens when we consider the sophistication of the site's design. It's clear that the creators of the Chankillo solar towers had a precise understanding of the sun's movements and the intricacies of the seasons. But how did they achieve such knowledge? Were they relying on centuries of accumulated wisdom passed down through oral tradition, or did they have access to advanced techniques or tools that have been lost to history? Some speculate that the builders of Chankillo could have been influenced by earlier astronomical knowledge from distant cultures. It is even possible that the site was part of a larger network of ancient observatories, stretching across the Andes and perhaps beyond, connecting various civilizations through shared astronomical traditions. There are also those who suggest a more speculative possibility. Could the Chankillo solar towers represent something more than just a method of timekeeping or agricultural planning? The precise nature of the site's layout has led some to speculate that it could have been used for more esoteric purposes, perhaps even as a tool for predicting celestial events or aligning the community with broader cosmic forces. The idea that the towers could have functioned as part of an ancient astrological system raises questions about the level of spiritual significance they held for their creators. Could the builders of Chankillo have viewed the sun and its movement as an influence on their destinies, something that governed not only their crops, but also their lives? As we examine the Chankillo solar towers, another mystery comes into focus. Why has this extraordinary site remained relatively unknown for so long? Unlike the more famous Nazca Lines or Machu Picchu, Chankillo has been largely overlooked by both the general public and mainstream archaeology for much of the 20th century. It was not until the early 2000s that the site began to attract serious attention, despite its impressive size and the complexity of its design. Could the long-standing obscurity of Chankillo be a reflection of its more esoteric nature? Or is there still something about this place, something about its purpose and meaning that we have yet to uncover? Some fringe theories even suggest that the Chankillo solar towers may be part of a much older, lost tradition of astronomical observation that spans centuries, if not millennia. Could the knowledge embedded in these towers have been passed down through a series of ancient cultures, slowly evolving as each new society added its own understanding of the heavens? Was Chankillo the final manifestation of a long history of solar worship and celestial observation that began long before the Tawanako? The answers remain as elusive as the sun at the end of the horizon. In the end, the Chankillo solar towers stand as a testament to the ancient people who crafted them. Their legacy remains not only in the stones themselves, but in the questions they continue to provoke. What knowledge did these ancient observers possess, and how did they come to create such an astonishing monument to the sun? Was it simply an agricultural tool, or was it something deeper, part of a larger cosmological belief system that we are only beginning to understand? The mystery of Chankillo remains unsolved, leaving us to wonder about the lost knowledge of the ancient world. What secrets lie hidden within the towers and the shadows they cast upon the land? Could this be one more chapter of a forgotten story waiting to be told? Only time and further exploration will tell. The ancient Incan city of Sacsayhuaman rises high above the modern city of Cusco, Peru. Its towering walls, composed of colossal stones, have long captivated both archaeologists and visitors alike. But the question persists. How could a civilization that lacked metal tools, advanced machinery, and modern engineering techniques have constructed such an imposing, intricate structure? This question has been the subject of mystery and speculation for centuries. Sacsayhuaman was originally built as a ceremonial and military center, strategically located on a hillside overlooking the sacred city of Cusco, the heart of the Inca Empire. The walls, which stretch across an area of roughly 3,000 square meters, are made up of massive stone blocks that fit together so perfectly that not even a knife blade can slip between them. Some of these blocks weigh over 100 tons, and many are cut with such precision that they fit together without the use of mortar. The sheer scale and accuracy of the construction have left experts scratching their heads. Historians and archaeologists have long debated how the Incas were able to quarry, transport, and place these enormous stones with such precision, especially given their lack of advanced technology. Some believe that the stones were cut using rudimentary tools made of bronze or stone, while others propose that they used an innovative technique known as stone softening, in which heat and water were applied to the stones to make them more pliable. However, no definitive explanation has yet been found. How could a civilization with no written records, no cranes, no wheelbarrows, and no metal tools achieve this feat of engineering? What ancient knowledge or technique did they possess, and where did it come from? As we explore further, we find that the mystery deepens. The layout of Sacsayhuaman is as enigmatic as its construction. The walls themselves form a series of interlocking zigzag patterns, which are thought to represent the teeth of a jaguar, a sacred animal in Inca culture. The Inca were known for their deep connection to the natural world, and many of their structures were symbolic of their cosmology, reflecting a profound understanding of the environment, the stars, and the natural forces around them. But the choice of the jaguar as a symbol raises more questions. Why this particular animal, and what significance did it hold beyond the Incan spiritual realm? The jaguar motif in the walls of Sacsayhuaman seems to hint at something much deeper, something hidden within the very structure of the site. Some theorists suggest that the layout of the site is not merely symbolic, but rather part of an ancient system of astronomical alignment. Could the zigzag pattern of the walls correspond to the movements of celestial bodies, marking key moments in the Inca calendar? Was Sacsayhuaman used as a kind of astronomical observatory, a place where the Incas studied the stars and the movements of the heavens to align their agricultural and ceremonial practices? The most intriguing mystery, however, lies in the construction techniques used to build such a site. The massive stones of Sacsayhuaman were likely quarried from the surrounding mountains and transported to the site, but the sheer difficulty of moving such immense blocks of stone, some of which are located several kilometers from the site, presents a puzzle. Traditional theories suggest that the Incas used ramps and levers to move the stones, but this explanation fails to account for how such large stones were lifted and fitted into place with such remarkable precision. How did the Incas manage to lift stones weighing over 100 tons? Was it purely a matter of manpower, or did they have access to lost knowledge, tools, or techniques that we have yet to discover? One theory suggests that the Incas may have had help from external sources. Some proponents of this theory point to the incredible accuracy and complexity of Sacsayhuaman's construction, suggesting that it could be the result of an advanced civilization that predates the Inca. Could the knowledge and skills needed to build Sacsayhuaman have been passed down from an older, forgotten culture? Some speculate that the pre-Inca cultures, such as the Wari or the Tiwanaku, might have laid the foundation for this remarkable site, possibly even teaching the Incas how to build it. Could there be a lost chapter in the history of the Andes that we have yet to uncover? There are also those who suggest a more speculative explanation, that the Inca, or their predecessors, may have had access to knowledge or technologies that are now long lost to history. Some fringe theories propose that the Incas possessed some form of advanced technology, possibly even alien assistance, to help with the construction of Sacsayhuaman. These theories often rely on the sheer complexity and precision of the site, which seems to defy the capabilities of a Stone Age culture. However, these ideas, while intriguing, remain unsupported by mainstream archaeology and are widely regarded as speculative at best. In addition to the mysteries of construction, the purpose of Sacsayhuaman itself remains uncertain. It is widely accepted that the site was a ceremonial and military center, playing a role in the Incas' religious and political life. The most significant event associated with the site is the Battle of Sacsayhuaman, fought between the Incas and the Spanish conquistadors in 1536. This battle, in which the Incas successfully repelled the Spanish forces, marked a significant moment in the history of the empire. But even here, the mysteries persist. How could the Incas, despite their superior military strategy and knowledge of the terrain, be ultimately defeated by the Spanish, whose forces were far smaller and less equipped? Perhaps the answer lies in the eventual fate of the Inca Empire itself. Following the Spanish conquest, Sacsayhuaman was largely abandoned and partially destroyed, with many of the stones being repurposed for building projects in Cusco. Over time, the true significance of the site was lost, and much of its meaning remained obscured by the passage of time and the imposition of colonial history. Could Sacsayhuaman have been more than just a symbol of Inca power? Was it, in fact, the heart of an ancient spiritual or astronomical tradition that the Incas inherited from an even older civilization? As we stand before the remnants of Sacsayhuaman today, we are left with a deep sense of awe and wonder. The sheer scale of the site, the complexity of its design, and the precision of its construction invite us to consider the remarkable achievements of the ancient Inca civilization. But as we study its ruins, we are also reminded of how much we still do not know. The mysteries surrounding Sacsayhuaman persist, and with each new discovery, we uncover more questions than answers. Could there be more hidden beneath the surface of this ancient site? Could there be knowledge that has yet to be rediscovered, or insights that have been lost to history? The story of Sacsayhuaman remains incomplete, and the mystery of its origins continues to linger in the winds that blow across the hills of Cusco. In the end, perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not how the Incas built Sacsayhuaman, but why? What drove them to create such a monumental, enigmatic site? Was it purely for practical purposes, military defense, astronomical observation, or religious ceremony? Or does the answer lie deeper, in a forgotten history, a lost tradition, or a greater cosmological understanding that we have yet to fully grasp? The walls of Sacsayhuaman stand as silent witnesses to a time long past, but their secrets remain tantalizingly out of reach. The answers may be buried in the sands of time, waiting for the day when we are ready to uncover them. Until then, Sacsayhuaman will continue to stand as a monument to the mystery and wonder of the ancient world. Nestled in the rolling hills of northern Palestine, not far from the modern-day city of Haifa, lies the Tel Yokneam megalithic segment, a site that raises as many questions as it does awe. From the moment you approach it, the scale and intricacy of the ancient stone constructions become apparent. This site, with its imposing stone blocks arranged in what seems to be an intentional yet enigmatic formation, offers a glimpse into the lost world of a civilization that once flourished in this fertile crescent. But who were these people? What was the purpose of these massive stones, and how were they moved and placed with such precision? Unlike the more widely recognized megalithic sites like Stonehenge or the Great Pyramids, Tel Yokneam remains relatively obscure to the broader public. Yet, within the academic community, it's becoming increasingly recognized as a key puzzle piece in understanding the ancient world of the Levant. This site consists of massive stone slabs, many of which weigh several tons, stacked together in a pattern that defies the technology of the time. These stones are not only large but unusually shaped, with some appearing to fit together in a manner that suggests a deliberate, highly sophisticated method of construction. They are not the kind of stones that could be transported easily, certainly not by primitive methods such as dragging them across the ground with manpower alone. But let's step back for a moment. What makes Talayotic particularly intriguing isn't just the size of the stones or their unusual alignment. It's their sheer age. This megalithic complex dates back to the Middle Bronze Age, around 2000 BC, which places it far before the rise of many other ancient civilizations. In an era when most human settlements were still relatively small and simple, these structures suggest that those who built them possessed a knowledge of engineering and architecture that was far beyond their contemporaries. The question, then, is simple yet profound. How did they do it? At the heart of Talayotic is a distinct megalithic segment, comprising a series of walls and enclosures that are arranged in seemingly deliberate formations. Some scholars suggest that these arrangements might have had a functional purpose, possibly serving as a fortified settlement or a ritualistic site. But here's the curious thing. The stones themselves aren't neatly cut, as one might expect from a highly advanced civilization. Instead, they are raw, rugged, and irregularly shaped, suggesting a primitive, even preliminary approach to monumental construction. Yet their arrangement, their sheer scale, and the effort required to move them still present a level of sophistication that the tools of the time do not appear to explain. Many theories exist surrounding the construction techniques employed at Talayotic, but none of them offer a conclusive answer. Some scholars argue that the builders of this site must have used wooden sledges, rollers, or crude levers to transport these enormous stones. Others suggest that the use of ramps could have been employed to move the stones upward. Still, the question remains, why would a society that seemed to have such limited technology invest such enormous resources in constructing such a site? There are, of course, alternative explanations. One of the more speculative theories is that the site could have had some kind of astronomical alignment. The arrangement of the stones could be marking important celestial events, perhaps tracking the movements of the sun, moon, or stars. This would be consistent with many other ancient megalithic sites around the world, from Stonehenge in the British Isles to the Nabta Playa in Egypt, where stone circles were aligned with celestial bodies, providing an agricultural calendar or a ceremonial function for ancient peoples. Could Talayotic have been used for similar purposes? Could it have been an observatory for early astronomers, tracking the rhythms of the cosmos to aid in crop planting or religious rituals? As we look closer, however, the idea of astronomical or ritualistic use seems only to deepen the mystery. Talayotic does not fit the traditional mold of the sacred site found in other ancient megalithic complexes. The stones are not arranged in a circular formation as one might expect for ritualistic purposes. Instead, they seem more like segments of a wall or barriers, leading some to wonder if this was perhaps an early fortification or defensive structure rather than a purely ceremonial site. Could it have been part of a larger fortified settlement designed to protect a strategically important area? This would align with the location of Talayotic, which sits at the crossroads of several ancient trade routes. A defense against potential invaders or rival communities could explain the massive investment in stone construction. And yet, as we contemplate these theories, we must also acknowledge the prevailing uncertainty. Talayotic is just one site in a region rich with unexplained megalithic structures. From the Golan Heights to the Negev Desert, stone ruins pepper the landscape, hinting at a far-reaching and complex society. But while Talayotic is a key site, it is hardly the only enigma in the Levant. There is an undeniable sense that these stones and walls represent something greater, something beyond the practical or ceremonial explanations we are so accustomed to. Could there be a lost chapter in the history of Palestine, or indeed humanity, that we have yet to uncover? Some scholars speculate that these megalithic structures were built by a people who had extensive contact with cultures much farther afield. This opens up a realm of possibilities, including the idea that Tel Yokneam might have connections to the advanced civilizations of the Mediterranean or even Mesopotamia, with whom the ancient Levantine cultures engaged in trade, warfare, and diplomacy. Could the techniques for building such structures have come from far-off lands? Or perhaps the people who built Tel Yokneam were part of an ancient, forgotten culture, one that predated the well-documented civilizations we know today? There is also the possibility that the Tel Yokneam megalithic segment may have had a religious significance that was so deeply entwined with the local communities that its meaning was lost over time. What if the walls and stones of Tel Yokneam were used to mark the boundaries of a sacred space, one that was not meant for defensive purposes at all, but for the protection of something holy? Could it have been a site where rituals were performed to appease the gods, or where the local community gathered for spiritual ceremonies? Perhaps we will never know the full extent of its purpose. The silence of the stones at Tel Yokneam speaks volumes about the limits of our understanding, and it invites us to question the nature of ancient knowledge and its relationship to the world as we know it today. What was the world like for those who built these massive stones? What did they understand about the earth, the stars, and the forces that shaped their lives? Could we be missing something vital about their way of thinking? Something that holds the key to their remarkable construction techniques? As we walk through the megalithic segment of Tel Yokneam, the weight of these questions presses down upon us. The stones seem to hold a deep, quiet wisdom, as if they are waiting for us to unlock their secrets. But the mysteries they embody are not easily solved, and perhaps that is as it should be. The past, it seems, is forever shrouded in enigma, inviting us to keep searching, questioning, and wondering what truths still lie buried beneath the earth. What we do know is this: the Tel Yokneam megalithic segment is a testament to human ingenuity and curiosity, a testament to a people who, even in the distant past, were not simply passive observers of the world, but active participants, shaping it in ways that remain just beyond our understanding. The Quilmes Cairn, a mysterious and ancient burial site, stands on the windswept hills of Orkney, off the northern coast of Scotland. It is one of the most compelling and enigmatic megalithic structures in the British Isles, a site that whispers of ancient customs, rituals, and beliefs that continue to elude our full understanding. The cairn, built from massive stones, rises from the landscape like a timeless monument to those who built it, their identities and motivations lost to history. Yet, even today, it holds secrets that compel us to look deeper, to question the motives behind its construction and the people who shaped it. At first glance, Quilmes Cairn seems like just another stone structure in the region, albeit an imposing one. This burial mound, dating back to the Bronze Age, is composed of large, neatly arranged stones, some weighing several tons, piled to form a domed structure. The cairn itself is relatively small in comparison to other famous megalithic sites, but its historical significance lies in what has been discovered within and around it. Upon excavation, archaeologists uncovered evidence of human remains, offering a direct connection to the long-gone communities that lived here thousands of years ago. But what really sets this site apart is the unusual nature of its design and its placement in the Orkney Islands, a region rich with ancient monuments that continue to challenge our understanding of prehistoric Britain. The cairn sits atop a gentle rise in the land, offering panoramic views of the surrounding countryside, a vantage point that suggests it may have held symbolic or spiritual significance. Some researchers speculate that this elevated position may have been chosen for its astronomical alignment, with the cairn marking certain celestial events or solstices, as has been suggested at other megalithic sites. Could Quilmes Cairn have functioned as an early observatory, a place where ancient astronomers aligned their understanding of the cosmos with their earthbound existence? Or was its purpose more rooted in the rituals of death, a monument dedicated to the passage of souls from this world to the next? The interior of the cairn is no less intriguing. Quilmes cairn has a distinct and unusual design compared to other cairns in the region. Inside, you'll find a series of narrow passages, small chambers, and a central burial area. Unlike the more common linear burial tombs, the structure of Quilmes cairn incorporates a unique set of passageways and cells, leading to the conclusion that it was designed for multiple interments. The remains of the dead, found within these chambers, were likely part of the elite or ruling class of ancient Orkney society. The site also yielded a wealth of artifacts, pottery, bone fragments, tools, and jewelry, all of which point to a highly organized society that valued both craftsmanship and ritual. Yet, much about the cairn's construction raises questions. While it is clear that the cairn was used for burial, the exact sequence of its use remains unclear. Some experts believe that it may have served as a place for multiple generations of families to be interred over several centuries. Others suggest that it may have been an exclusive tomb, built for a single family or group of powerful leaders. The uncertainty surrounding its use only deepens the mystery of this ancient structure. Why, for instance, would an ancient society invest so much time and effort into a burial site? What purpose did the monumental size and careful design of the cairn serve, if not to honor the dead in a way that transcended the mundane? In addition to its architectural features, Quilmes cairn presents another mystery: the remains of the dead. The human bones found inside the cairn reveal signs of ritual treatment. Certain bodies were placed in specific postures, with some individuals showing evidence of having been cremated or disarticulated before being buried. Were these remains part of a ritualistic process designed to prepare the dead for an afterlife? Or did the people of Orkney believe that some form of rebirth or transformation occurred after death, explaining the careful handling and repositioning of the dead? The site's geographic location adds another layer of complexity to its mystery. The Orkney Islands were a hub of ancient trade and culture, situated at the crossroads of multiple seafaring routes. Could the builders of Quilmes cairn have been influenced by cultures outside of Orkney, possibly even continental Europe? The intricate carvings found on some of the stonework in the cairn are suggestive of connections to Celtic traditions, and may even hint at exchanges between early civilizations across Europe. Could the people who constructed this cairn have had a more advanced understanding of astronomy or architectural design than we have yet to fully appreciate? But as with many ancient sites, the more we learn, the more questions arise. Some researchers have suggested that Quilmes cairn could have had a symbolic function tied to the land itself. Could it have been a ritual site where the ancients performed ceremonies to connect with the spirits of nature? Some even speculate that the cairn was intended to serve as a boundary marker, a point of transition between the physical world and the spiritual realm. The passages and chambers could have been places of spiritual purification or transformation, guiding the dead toward their journey in the afterlife. Then, there is the possibility that the cairn was built by a people whose beliefs and customs were so alien to us that we may never truly understand them. Could the builders have used Quilmes cairn as a means to encode a message that has been lost to time? Ancient societies often left behind cryptic symbols, carvings, and artifacts that modern minds are only beginning to decode. Could Quilmes cairn be one such message? An encrypted record of knowledge or a warning, buried in stone and earth to be unearthed thousands of years later? As we consider these possibilities, one thing is certain: the Quilmes cairn is not just a tomb, nor is it merely an isolated curiosity on the landscape of Orkney. It is a testament to the people who lived here, who built this site with care and purpose. And as we look to the future, it becomes clear that there is much more to discover, not only about the cairn itself, but also about the culture that constructed it. How did these ancient peoples view the afterlife? How did they understand the world around them, and what did they believe was waiting for them beyond the veil of death? The mystery of Quilmes Cairn remains largely unsolved. What lies hidden beneath the earth here, both physically and metaphorically, remains a tantalizing riddle. Was the cairn simply a tomb for the dead, or did it serve a far deeper, more complex purpose? Only time and further exploration will tell. For now, we are left to wonder what other secrets the Quilmes Cairn holds, waiting patiently in the wind-swept hills of Orkney. Nestled in the rolling hills of Spain's southern region, the Dolmen of Soto stands as a silent witness to the distant past. Shrouded in mystery, this ancient megalithic structure is a burial chamber like no other, offering both insight and enigma into the rituals and beliefs of the people who constructed it. The site is part of a broader tradition of dolmens scattered across the Iberian Peninsula, yet the Dolmen of Soto holds its own, not only for its massive size and elaborate structure, but for the unanswered questions it presents to modern archaeologists and historians. The dolmen's location, a quiet rise in the countryside of the Guadalquivir Valley, offers an almost eerie tranquility. Surrounding the monument is a mixture of wild vegetation and ancient stones that have stood for thousands of years, enduring the harsh Spanish climate, human activity, and the steady march of time. Despite its age, the dolmen has retained its remarkable stature. At the heart of the monument is a large megalithic tomb made up of enormous stones, some of which weigh multiple tons. These stones, meticulously arranged, form a corridor leading to the central burial chamber. The dolmen's entrance is framed by towering slabs of stone, each one carefully balanced to create an awe-inspiring yet intimidating structure. Unlike other dolmens that may appear more rudimentary, the Dolmen of Soto is exceptionally well constructed. The arrangement of the stones suggests a people with remarkable engineering skill and a deep understanding of architecture. The burial chamber itself is carefully aligned, with the entryway facing a direction that some believe could be tied to astronomical events such as the solstices or equinoxes. This alignment hints at an understanding of celestial cycles, perhaps a belief in the power of the stars or the sun that transcended mere pragmatism. But was this alignment purely functional, or did it carry a more profound spiritual meaning? The chamber inside the dolmen reveals an intriguing glimpse into the rituals of the Bronze Age peoples who constructed it. Archaeological excavations have uncovered a number of human remains buried in and around the structure, some of which show signs of cremation and ritualistic placement. Were these individuals part of a particular social class or tribe? What was the significance of their remains being placed within such a grand structure? The very existence of such elaborate burial sites suggests that those interred here were important figures, perhaps rulers, priests, or other high-status individuals. But why such an intricate and costly burial, given the relatively simple nature of the society around them? The fact that such an extraordinary site was dedicated to the dead raises the question of how these ancient people viewed life and death, the spiritual realm, and their relationship with the forces of nature. The construction of the dolmen itself remains a mystery. The precision and care involved in placing each stone make the project appear almost too advanced for the time period in which it was built. Some have even speculated that the builders of the Dolmen of Soto may have had access to technologies or knowledge that we have yet to understand. Could they have used techniques passed down from an earlier civilization, or were they simply the result of brilliant engineering minds who mastered the art of stone placement? And if it was the latter, why did they invest so much effort into a structure that, at its core, served as a burial site? As we delve deeper into the mystery of the Dolmen of Soto, we also begin to see connections to other ancient structures in the Mediterranean world. In particular, the alignment of the dolmen with the sun's movement echoes practices seen in other megalithic sites across Europe and beyond. The design of the tomb, with its long passageway leading to the burial chamber, mirrors similar constructions in Britain and Ireland, suggesting that the people who built it may have been part of a larger cultural network that spanned across the continent. Were the builders of the Dolmen of Soto influenced by these distant civilizations, or were they, in fact, pioneers of a much older shared tradition? Despite the insights that can be gleaned from the structure, much about the Dolmen of Soto remains unclear. For one, the exact dating of the dolmen is a subject of debate. Estimates range widely, with some scholars suggesting that the tomb was built as early as the late Neolithic period, around 3000 BC, while others argue that it could be as recent as the Bronze Age. The dating remains ambiguous, as does the specific cultural context in which it was constructed. Was it built by the same people who erected the other dolmens in the region? Or was it the work of a different, now forgotten people whose culture never fully integrated into the surrounding societies? One of the most perplexing aspects of the dolmen is the lack of clear evidence regarding its use after the burial rituals were completed. While other similar sites have yielded evidence of continued use or modification over time, the Dolmen of Soto appears to have been left largely undisturbed. This raises questions about its cultural significance. Was the dolmen used in ongoing rituals, or did it simply serve as a monument to the deceased, eventually fading into obscurity? The lack of later activity at the site suggests that the people who built it may have abandoned it for reasons we may never fully understand. Some speculate that the Dolmen of Soto was the site of an ancient cult, a place where ceremonial practices involving the dead and the living were intertwined. The careful placement of the stones and the grandeur of the structure may point to a people deeply involved in ancestor worship or spiritual practices that sought to establish a connection with the forces of nature. Was the dolmen built to align with the sun as part of a solar cult? Or was it intended to honor earth deities, with the stone walls serving as a barrier between the living and the spiritual realms? And then there is the possibility that the dolmen was simply a marker of power. The monumental size of the structure and the effort required to construct it suggest a society capable of impressive feats of organization. Perhaps it was not only a tomb, but a statement of the builders' power, a reminder of their strength and influence long after they had passed. For now, we are left with more questions than answers. As we examine the Dolmen of Soto, it becomes clear that we may never know all the secrets it holds. The stones stand resolute, guarding their mysteries and inviting future explorers to attempt to decipher them. Why was it built in such a specific location? What role did it play in the lives of those who built it? Was it truly just a tomb, or did it serve a much greater purpose that has been lost to time? As we continue to study and investigate the past, the Dolmen of Soto reminds us that the ancient world is filled with enigmatic sites, waiting for us to unravel their secrets. Perhaps the most fitting question we can ask, as we stand before this timeless monument, is not, "What is the answer?" but rather, "What is still hidden?" waiting, perhaps, for the right moment to be revealed. The mystery of the Dolmen of Soto lingers in the air, inviting us to wonder and to seek the answers that have been buried with it for so long. As we journey deeper into the history of ancient ports and trade routes, we arrive at the Sungai Batu Ancient Port Structures, a site tucked away in the dense forests of northwest Malaysia, where time itself seems to linger in the shadows of towering trees and ancient stones. Situated near the Sungai Batu River, the ruins stand as a silent witness to an era long forgotten. In contrast to the more well-known ancient seaports of the Mediterranean or the Egyptian coasts, Sungai Batu is not as frequently discussed in mainstream historical narratives. Yet, within its stone walls and scattered artifacts, lies a mystery that challenges our understanding of ancient trade and the global connections that shaped the ancient world. The port complex itself is a sprawling site, covering several kilometers of land along the banks of the river. Unlike the conventional image of ancient ports, think of bustling harbors filled with ships and merchants, Sungai Batu is characterized by its stone structures, many of which seem to have been carefully arranged with no apparent regard for modern aesthetic conventions. Massive stones, some weighing multiple tons, are interspersed with the dense foliage, weathered and eroded by centuries of rain and wind, but still imposing in their sheer size and arrangement. Some appear to form the remnants of docks, others suggest platforms or embankments, and yet others resemble walls and foundations that might have supported structures of a once thriving settlement. What stands out most about the Sungai Batu site, however, is its location. Situated far from the sea, it raises an intriguing question. How did this ancient port, believed to be active around 2000 BC, function in an era where most major maritime trade hubs were located along the coast? Could this have been an inland harbor, linking local communities to far-reaching maritime trade networks through rivers and waterways, or was there something more unusual about this site that we are yet to understand? In recent years, this site has garnered more attention, particularly after the discovery of ancient stone structures that seem to suggest advanced maritime knowledge for the time period. Archaeologists have uncovered what appears to be a series of mysterious docks along the river, with the stones arranged in a manner suggesting that they were meant to facilitate the mooring of boats. But what kind of boats, and who exactly would have been using them? The Sungai Batu site is part of a broader archaeological zone that includes numerous other megalithic structures, some of which are aligned with the stars, hinting at a deeper connection to ancient astronomical practices. This raises another fascinating question. Were the people who built Sungai Batu just simple traders, or could they have been involved in more complex cultural exchanges, perhaps even a lost civilization? The alignment of certain stones with celestial events suggests the possibility of a cosmic understanding, a belief system that intertwines the rhythm of the heavens with the rhythm of the earth, a tradition seen in other megalithic sites around the world. Beyond these enigmatic stone constructions, excavations at Sungai Batu have uncovered artifacts that suggest this was a place of significant trade and cultural exchange. Pottery shards, bronze tools, and rings have been discovered, along with evidence of early metallurgy. The very presence of bronze, a metal not native to the region, suggests that Sungai Batu was part of a much larger trade network, possibly stretching from the Indian Ocean to the farthest reaches of Southeast Asia and beyond. This idea challenges our conventional view of ancient trade, where the Silk Road and Mediterranean routes are often the focus, while other, lesser-known routes remain shrouded in mystery. The people of Sungai Batu appear to have been skilled metallurgists, capable of producing tools and ornaments from bronze, a metal requiring advanced knowledge of fire and alloying techniques. Yet, this technological achievement raises another mystery. How did these people, seemingly isolated in the dense jungles of Southeast Asia, come to possess such advanced knowledge of metallurgy? Were they the product of indigenous innovation, or did they come into contact with other cultures that shared this knowledge, perhaps through a now-lost maritime route? And if so, where did these cultural exchanges begin, and what was their scope? What further deepens the mystery of Sungai Batu is the fact that this site is still largely unexplored. While a great deal of archaeological work has been done on the site, much of the port complex remains buried beneath dense jungle foliage, inaccessible due to the terrain and lack of funding for large-scale excavation projects. What might be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? Could there be an entire civilization's worth of remains still waiting to reveal its secrets? Speculation about the possible connections between Sungai Batu and other ancient civilizations continues to grow. Some suggest that the site may have served as a major hub for the Srivijaya Empire, which controlled large portions of Southeast Asia from the 7th to the 13th centuries AD. However, this would place Sungai Batu much earlier than the well-known Srivijaya period. Could the people of Sungai Batu have influenced later cultures, leaving an imprint that only now, thousands of years later, are we beginning to uncover? Or could it be that Sungai Batu represents the remains of a completely different civilization, one that was part of a much earlier global maritime network, now lost to history. The question of Sungai Batu's cultural and historical significance is further complicated by the lack of written records. While other ancient cultures have left behind detailed inscriptions or manuscripts, no written documentation has been found at Sungai Batu. This makes the task of fully understanding the site even more difficult. Were these people part of an oral tradition that passed down stories of their maritime exploits and the gods they worshipped? Or is there a more tangible record, hidden beneath layers of earth? The significance of Sungai Batu cannot be overstated. It is not just another archaeological site, it is a testament to the complexity and interconnectedness of the ancient world, one that challenges the idea of isolated cultures and raises the possibility of long-distance trade networks that existed thousands of years before we typically think such networks were possible. Could the Sungai Batu ancient port be the key to unlocking a greater understanding of ancient Southeast Asia's role in global trade? What secrets still lie beneath the dense forest, waiting for the right team of archaeologists to unearth them? The mysteries of this site are far from resolved, and it stands as a reminder of how much more there is to learn about the world that came before us. As we leave this ancient river port behind, we are left with lingering questions, as mysterious as the site itself. What lies hidden beneath the earth? And what lost knowledge will one day come to light, offering us a glimpse into a forgotten chapter of history? The Sungai Batu port is more than just a mystery. It's a key to understanding the vast, interconnected network of ancient peoples who once shared a world of trade, technology, and cosmology. As we reflect on the mysteries of Sungai Batu, one can't help but wonder about the possibilities that still remain buried beneath the thick jungle canopy. What was the true scale of this ancient site, and what role did it play in the broader picture of early human civilization? Was it a port, a cultural hub, or perhaps something entirely different, an undiscovered link in a larger network of ancient knowledge and commerce? As more researchers and explorers turn their attention to this forgotten corner of the world, the site may yet yield secrets that will rewrite history itself. Perhaps in the distant future, we will uncover not just artifacts, but the stories of the people who once inhabited Sungai Batu, stories of ingenuity, exploration, and connection across vast distances. Until then, we can only continue to ask, how much of our history is still hidden, waiting to be discovered, and what can we learn from the enigmatic past of Sungai Batu that might illuminate our understanding of the ancient world? The answers, it seems, are still out there, waiting to emerge from the shadows of time.